Part 14. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 131. Jinling is the imperial city, at the feet of the emperor. It's a bright and sunny day, so naturally there won't be anything illegal. Apart from catching a few thieves, there was nothing gained along the way. Unknowingly, Xiao Wuji led a few people to the western suburbs of Jinling City. It is far away from Zhenfuzi, Liamen headquarters, and Yamen, so the security is not as good as that in the center of Jinling City. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji's ears twitched, he stopped and turned to look at a small forest on the left. "What's the matter, sir?" Shuehua, Song Liman, and others behind him also stopped when they saw this. Xiao Wuji looked at the grove and said, "There is the sound of fighting over there." Although the sound of fighting was slight, Xiao Wuji heard it clearly. Seeing this, Shuehua and others quickly put their hands on the handles of their swords, ready to fight at any time. Xiao Wuji said, "I'll go take a look first, you guys follow behind." Before he finished speaking, Xiao Wuji turned into a bolt of lightning and shot out. As soon as the lightning flashed, Xiao Wuji rushed into the woods and disappeared. Shuehua, Song Liman, and others looked at each other, feeling helpless. "Follow. How can you follow?" "Sir, your speed is too fast, we can't keep up." Question: What does it feel like to have a boss who is too strong? Answer: I feel like a complete waste. Looking up, I saw two groups of people in the woods. Fighting. There was only one person on one side, holding a bloody spear. It was Gongsun Ao who failed to challenge Xiao Wuji. The middle-aged man had a huge scar on his face, lying on his face like a centipede. It was extremely ferocious and terrifying. People are intimidated. The middle-aged man led his men to besiege Gongsun Ao. Gongsun Ao was outnumbered and already at a disadvantage. But even though he was at a disadvantage, Gongsun Ao still refused to retreat. A red-blooded spear was waved, making the sound of dragons roaring and tigers roaring. A spear was thrust out, piercing the chests of two people at the same time, and skewering them into barbecues. With a heavy shake of the spear, the bodies of the two men exploded, and their flesh and blood flew everywhere. The remaining people suddenly showed fear when they saw Gongsun Ao's cruelty. When the scarred man saw this, he roared coldly, "Don't be afraid, he is already at the end of his strength. There are so many of us, we can kill him sooner or later." As soon as he finished speaking, the man with the scar took the lead in killing Gongsun Ao. The sword slashed down angrily, and the sword energy was vertical and horizontal, and he directly took the head on Gongsun Ao's neck. Judging from the strength of the true energy, this man is a real master, almost in the middle stage of Grand Master. Gongsun Ao blocked the flying sword energy with his spear. With a pop, blood spurted from the corner of Gongsun Ao's mouth, the tiger's mouth cracked, blood spattered, and he was knocked back more than 10 steps by the sword energy. The scarred man took advantage of the victory and pursued him. Slashed with the sword horizontally, and several sword chi flew towards Gongsun Ao. His men also took the opportunity to clear the formation for him and launched a sneak attack from behind. After a round of attacks, Gongsun Ao was injured more than once. He kept vomiting blood and retreated continuously. He inserted the red blood spear into the ground and then barely stood up. Unexpectedly, Gongsun Ao, you would also have this day. The scarred man stepped forward with a knife and said coldly to Gongsun Ao, "I swore 3 years ago that one day I would let you die by my knife. I, Zhou Tianheng, have been waiting for this day for 3 years. 3 years, more than 1,000 days and nights. Do you know how I got here? In the past 3 years, I have always wanted to kill you and reduce you to ashes." Zhou Tianheng's voice was cold, like a poisonous snake, biting the bones. Gongsun Ao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said disdainfully, "If I hadn't been seriously injured, you guys would have died from my gun long ago." Got off. If Gongsun Ao's combat power is at its peak, then these people in front of him are naturally no match for him. Gongsun Ao can kill the arrogant Zhou Tianheng with one shot. But in the battle with Xiao Wuji yesterday, Gongsun Ao was seriously injured, although he took the healing elixir in time and used his energy to heal the injury. After all, it only lasted one night, and the injury could not be healed. After being surrounded and killed by Zhou Tianheng and his men while he was seriously injured, Gongsun Ao naturally ended up with a disastrous defeat. It can be said that it was a disastrous defeat. It's like a tiger falling in Pingyang and being bullied by a dog. Haha, I didn't expect that you, Gongsun Ao, would also make excuses. It seems that everyone is the same and will be afraid in the face of death. Zhou Tianheng taunted. Fart. Although Gongsun Ao was seriously injured and dying, his temper was still fiery. I never know what fear is. What's death? I never care. What I care about is that I would die in the hands of a despicable person like you. It is really the greatest shame in my life, Gongsun Ao. You brought this all on yourself. Zhou Tianheng was also furious, with veins popping up on his neck, and roared, if you hadn't killed my father and wiped out my entire Zhou family, how would you have ended up like today? All this is your own fault. It is only right that I avenge my father. Gongsun Ao stood proudly with a red-blooded spear in his hand. Although he was covered in blood, his aura was still wild and domineering. Gongsun Ao smiled sarcastically and said, that old pervert of yours has lost all his teeth at this age. How can you still believe this? What are the heresies about harvesting yin and replenishing yang? Practicing magic skills harms women, and they think they can live forever. I have no interest in chivalry, but who made your father unlucky? He just happened to bump into my hand, and I naturally wouldn't let him go, so he shot him to the west. You, my son, are just like your perverted father. I originally planned to eradicate the roots. It's a pity that you were not at home that day, otherwise I would have sent you to hell and reunited your father and son in the underworld. Oh, I almost forgot to mention it. Gongsun Ao suddenly laughed. When your father knelt down and kowtowed to beg me not to kill him, he was so disgusted by the sight of his nose bursting with tears. Thinking about it now makes me feel sick. Ha 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 ha. Gongsun Ao got louder and louder as he spoke, and at the end he grinned wildly. Every word he said was like a knife, piercing Zhou Tianheng's heart. That arrogant laughter made Zhou Tianheng furious. Kill him for me, no, capture him alive. Zhou Tianheng roared angrily, the veins on his neck popped out, and the blood seemed to burst the blood vessels. I want to peel off his skin, cramp his muscles, cut his flesh and bones. Gongsun Ao, just talk tough now. When I capture you alive, I will let you know what life is worse than death. I will not let you die happily, I will make you unable to live or die. Superior. Zhou Tianheng gave the order and immediately took the lead to kill Gongsun Ao. His men and horses also rushed forward and killed Gongsun Ao. Gongsun Ao waved his spear and swept across with one shot, blocking Zhou Tianheng's killing move. But there were two people behind him. The horizontal knife struck directly on his shoulder, leaving two knife marks and blood splattering. Gongsun Ao roared angrily, and the remaining true energy in his body exploded and burst out. The red blood spear made the sound of dragons roaring and tigers roaring, forcing Zhou Tianheng back. The spear kept moving, drawing a semicircle and sweeping across the two people behind him. There was a pop, and blood spattered. The two killers were cut off directly at the waist, and they died without a whole body. But with this move after that, Gongsun Ao himself spurted blood and staggered to his knees. As Zhou Tianheng said, Gongsun Ao had reached the end of his strength. His injuries had reached the limit, and the true energy in his body was almost exhausted. At this moment, his fighting power was at full strength. Not even a single one. Even a top-notch warrior could kill him easily. Gongsun Ao was half kneeling on the ground, leaning on a gun, his face covered in blood, his eyes blurred by the blood. "Ha ha, Zhou Tianheng, you useless piece of shit, you can't kill me." Gongsun Ao saw Zhou Tianheng clearly in front of him and suddenly smiled. He was still so arrogant and full of disdain and ridicule. He looked down on Zhou Tianheng. Even if such a despicable villain defeated him in the end, Gongsun Ao would still not accept it. Full of contempt for him. "Xiao Wuji, I will never pay you back with my life." At this moment, Gongsun Ao thought of Xiao Wuji. Gongsun Ao was truly convinced of Xiao Wuji. Because Xiao Wuji defeated him openly and openly. "Rather than die in the hands of this despicable villain, I would rather die in the hands of Xiao Wuji." Gongsun Ao showed a wry smile, his eyes suddenly darkened, and he used his left hand to strike his Tianling cap fiercely. This was Gongsun Ao's last breath of innate energy, and it was also the reason why he could survive. This breath disappeared, Gongsun Ao died. But even if Gongsun Ao committed suicide, he would not die in the hands of a despicable villain like Zhou Tianheng. "Stop!" Zhou Tianheng's eyes were about to burst, and he threw out the horizontal knife in his hand and flew towards Gongsun Ao. He did not allow Gongsun Ao to commit suicide. Gongsun Ao could only die in his hands, otherwise it would be difficult to eliminate the hatred in his heart. Laughing. At the critical moment, a bolt of lightning fell from the sky and hit Gongsun Ao's elbow. At the same time, it rebounded and knocked away the incoming horizontal knife. Swish. The horizontal knife flew back and spun around in mid-air for more than 10 times before returning to the left side. In the hands of Tianheng. Gongsun Ao was suddenly startled and collapsed on the ground. His last breath of innate energy had been exhausted. Even if he didn't slap himself to death, the serious injuries in his body were enough to kill him. Just when Gongsun Ao was when he was about to close his eyes and die, a pure and surging true energy suddenly poured into his body. This true energy quickly repaired the injuries in Gongsun Ao's internal organs and 8 extraordinary meridians. Gongsun Ao felt all over his body. The pain was greatly reduced and my energy recovered quickly. "Who saved me?" Gongsun Ao turned his head with difficulty and saw a strange yet familiar face. "Xiao Wuji." Gongsun Ao's eyes widened. Yes, the person who appeared behind Gongsun Ao was none other than Xiao Wuji. Gongsun Ao had never expected that Xiao Wuji would come to save him. Xiao Wuji glanced at Gongsun Ao. Said calmly, "Don't be distracted, concentrate on healing." When Gongsun Ao saw this, he didn't say anything nonsense. He immediately sat cross-legged and started to use his internal energy to heal his injuries. With Xiao Wuji's 9 yang true qi hanging on his life, Gongsun Ao could heal his injuries on his own as long as he regained a trace of his innate true energy. If it were a normal world, Xiao Wuji would not interfere in a fight or a battle of spirits. Killers will always be killed. Gongsun Ao has killed countless enemies, and it is reasonable and natural to be killed by the enemy one day. But after listening to Gongsun Ao and Zhou after Tianheng's conversation, Xiao Wuji felt that Gongsun Ao was worth saving. No matter how much Gongsun Ao denied it, he did do a lot of chivalrous and righteous things. Although he had a hot temper, he often had conflicts with his colleagues in the world, and even had violent conflicts with others. He fought, but he was merciful every time and almost never killed innocent people. This is very similar to Xiao Wuji. It would be a pity for such a person to die in the hands of a group of despicable villains. After all, Gongsun Ao is also an upright master. A strong person should not end up like this, so Xiao Wuji took action. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 132. Xiao Wuji, why are you here? Also, why did you save him? When Zhou Tianheng saw Xiao Wuji saving Gongsun Ao, he was furious and immediately asked. Xiao Wuji glanced at Zhou Tianheng coldly and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have to yell in front of me? Do I need to explain to you what I want to do and what I am willing to do?" After the words fell, Xiao Wuji's eyes widened, and the cold murderous aura suddenly burst out, sweeping in all directions. Zhou Tianheng and his more than 30 men were all enveloped by Xiao Wuji's murderous aura, and everyone felt like they were falling into an ice cellar. Their bodies and minds were chilling. Waves of cold air invaded their bodies and hit their internal organs, causing them to tremble involuntarily. In the blink of an eye, all the more than 30 killers had purple lips and could not even stand still. This is Xiao Wuji, so scary. So powerful, so much stronger than Gongsun Ao. No wonder it ranks fourth on the list, it is indeed well deserved. More than 30 killers were so frightened that they all lowered their heads, not daring to take another look at Xiao Wuji. Zhou Tianheng was the only one who could resist Xiao Wuji's murderous intent. He was so angry that his face was livid, and he subconsciously wanted to get angry and roar. But when I think of Xiao Wuji's strength, I don't dare to say those arrogant words. Xiaoqian, who was joking, but I was rude. I offended you so much, but I hope you can forgive me. Although Zhou Tianheng's face is still ugly, his tone of voice has softened. People under the eaves have to lower their heads. Xiao Wuji is stronger than him and has a bigger background than him. No matter how angry Zhou Tianheng is in his heart, even if you are burning, you must endure it and be respectful. Mr. Xiao, this is a matter between me and Gongsun Ao. It has nothing to do with Mr. Xiao. Please don't interfere, Mr. Xiao. Zhou Tianheng said with his sword in his hands. Are you teaching me how to do things? Xiao Wuji raised his eyebrows and said in a cold voice, what if I have to intervene? What can you do to me? You. Moreover, Gongsun Ao and you not only have no friendship, but actually have a grudge, so why should you save him? He died here today, and Mr. Xiao, you also have one less enemy. Isn't it the best of both worlds? As long as Mr. Xiao doesn't interfere today and just watches from the sidelines, I'm willing to offer you generous gifts to thank you. A generous gift? Yes, please let Master Xiao do it. Zhou Tianheng thought that Xiao Wuji was moved by him, and he suddenly showed a hint of joy. But Xiao Wuji's voice suddenly changed, and his tone was cold. Who do you think I am? Am I the kind of scoundrel who forgets his own righteousness for the sake of profit? In broad daylight and in a clear world, you actually dare to openly bribe Zhen Yiwei. How brave are you? How many heads do you have enough to chop off? Xiao Wuji's sudden change of expression shocked Zhou Tianheng. At this moment, how could he not understand that Xiao Wuji had been playing tricks on him? From the beginning to the end, he could not get out of the way. Mr. Xiao, are you determined to save Gongsun Ao? Zhou Tianheng's face was so gloomy that he could shed tears. Xiao Wuji sneered, you only realized it now, your mind is really stupid. Okay, I've been talking nonsense for a long time, it's time for you to get on your way. Xiao Wuji, do you really want to break up with us for Gongsun Ao? Zhou Tianheng was frightened and panicked when he saw Xiao Wuji showing his murderous intent, but on the surface he was still fierce and angry. But no matter what, the panic on his face could not be concealed. Zhou Tianheng was afraid of Xiao Wuji from the bottom of his heart. Xiao Wuji was afraid of Xiao Wuji. Zhou Tianheng knew Wuji's strength very well. When Xiao Wuji and Gongsun Ao fought yesterday, he was watching the battle. He asked himself that he was definitely not Xiao Wuji's opponent. Xiao Wuji looked at Zhou Tianheng and said indifferently, I heard that he has caused harm to many innocent women, so if he died under my sword today, it must not be considered unjust. Before he finished speaking, Xiao Wuji drew his sword out of its sheath. He only heard the cry of the sword, and a flash of frosty sword light suddenly appeared, passing through everyone's eyes. A huge 30-meter sword energy fell from the sky, towards as Zhou Tianheng fell head-on, it was the startling glance of Aohan's 6 techniques. Don't want, Rao. Zhou Tianheng's eyes widened with fear, and he immediately drew his sword to meet the enemy. All the true energy from his body surged out and turned into the most powerful sword. But his skill was far from Xiao Wuji's. Even if he tried his best, he would still be far behind. The sword energy was defeated by a cold glance as soon as it appeared. Boom! The 30-meter huge sword energy crushed down, chopping Zhou Tianheng and his sword into blood mist. The sword light exploded, and the powerful true energy exploded, rushing in all directions, knocking away all the more than 30 killers behind Zhou Tianheng. More than 30 people were flying in mid-air, vomiting blood, and more than half of them died before they even landed. Master Xiao, spare your life. We are willing to retreat. Too much nonsense. The remaining people wanted to beg for mercy, but Xiao Wuji didn't want to waste time listening. Before they could finish speaking, a sword energy swept across and killed them all. With a clang, Xiao Wuji sheathed his sword, the murderous aura and coldness gradually subsided. Looking up, the grove was covered with frost and corpses were everywhere. Footsteps sounded, and Xuehua, Song Liman, and others finally arrived in a hurry. As usual, they came one step later. Sir, your efficiency is too fast, can't you go slower? This will make us appear incompetent. Xuehua, Song Liman, and others were filled with helplessness. They all felt in their hearts that it was too much pressure to follow such an excellent Changguan. Xiao Wuji's presence reminded them all the time that they are all useless. Except for after the war, they seemed to have no other use for cleaning up the scene and picking up corpses. Xiao Wuji glanced at a few people and said calmly, if you want to not be a waste, just practice hard. Otherwise, you will be really useless soon. As soon as these words came out, Xuehua, Song Liman and others were shocked. They knew that Xiao Wuji did not scare them. As Xiao Wuji's official position rose higher and higher, his men must also become stronger and stronger. If their strength is not enough, they will definitely be eliminated. They don't want to miss a good Shangguan like Xiao Wuji. Xuehua and Song Liman looked at each other, bowed to Xiao Wuji at the same time, and said in unison, don't worry, sir, I will practice hard. Within 1 month, my subordinates will be able to break through the innate realm. With the guidance of Xiao Wuji, the great master, Xuehua and Song Liman's martial arts paths have been much smoother than others. Both of them are already on the verge of breakthrough, and it will not take long before they can achieve innate breakthrough. Then they will follow Xiao Wuji to perform some tasks, he can be legitimately promoted to the position of 100 households. Xiao Wuji nodded slightly and looked at Gongsun Ao, who was healing his wounds with his eyes closed. Xuehua, Song Liman, and others also noticed Gongsun Ao's presence at this moment. Isn't this Gongsun Ao? Why is he here? Is he the one you saved? Seeing Gongsun Ao covered in blood and bruised, several people shook their heads at the same time and sighed. This is too tragic. Who did Gongsun Ao offend? How could he be hunted down so badly? Couldn't you have killed someone else's wife? A few people were gloating about their misfortune. Xiao Wuji said expressionlessly, I didn't kill his wife, but he killed his father and wiped out his whole family. So cruel. Revenge for killing your father and destroying your family. No wonder. Xuehua and Song Liman understood it as soon as they heard it. However, they didn't care about why Xiao Wuji saved Gongsun Ao. It was not their turn to comment on how Xiao Wuji acted. They only had to obey orders. Half an hour later, Gongsun Ao finished his work and stood up. His face was not as pale as before, and he had recovered a little bit of his strength. Of course, he was not cured of the serious injury, but at least he saved his life and would no longer be in danger. Gongsun Ao looked at Xiao Wuji, asked in a low voice, why did you save me? Xiao Wuji said calmly, if you want to save me, just save me. There is no reason. If you insist on a reason, Just treat me as someone who sees injustice on the road and draw your sword to help. Gongsun Ao was silent for a while and said, "Thank you very much. You saved my life today, plus you let me go yesterday. I already owe you 2 lives. I will return these 2 lives to you. As long as you open your mouth, you will be smashed to pieces without hesitation." After saying that, Gongsun Ao clasped his fists and bowed to Xiao Wuji. This guy has always been very arrogant, but now he is so humble, which makes Xiao Wuji a little uncomfortable. Xiao Wuji waved his hand and said, "No, I'll save you. It's just a matter of convenience. Zhou Tianheng has a lot of crimes and is notorious, and I have heard a little about it. Even without you, I would have caught him and brought him to justice." Gongsun Ao is not a mother-in-law. Seeing Xiao Wuji say this, he didn't say anything more and just kept his gratitude in his heart. Gongsun Ao acted openly and aboveboard throughout his life, with clear distinction between grievances and grievances. Xiao Wuji was kind to him, and he would repay him even if he risked his life. "Okay, let's find a pharmacy first. Your injuries can't be delayed." Xiao Wuji looked at Gongsun Ao and said, "If you delay any longer, your life will not be in danger, but your martial arts foundation will be damaged, and you will have no hope of becoming a great master in the future unexpectedly." Gongsun Ao refused, shook his head and said, "I don't have time to go to the medicine shop now. I want to save my friend." "Friend?" "That man in blue shirt. The man has an elegant temperament and a graceful demeanor. He is not like a warrior but more like a scholar." Gongsun Ao nodded and said, "The man's name is Bai Junchen, and he is my best friend. Yesterday I was defeated at your hands. I was assassinated by Zhou Tianheng and others while resting in the inn at night. Along with Zhou Tianheng at that time, there was also a ghost-faced man with strong martial arts skills. In order to save me, Brother Bai lured away the ghost-faced man alone. He has been missing since then and his whereabouts are unknown. So I have to find him. Save him. Just who you are now." Xiao Wuji looked at Gongsun Ao calmly, shook his head and said, "Now you don't talk about saving people, you may not even save your life. You are not going to save people, you are going to die. Even if I die, I will go." Gongsun Ao said categorically, "A man who stands upright must put loyalty first. Brother Bai risked his life to save me, how could I be greedy for life and afraid of death? Leave him alone. Even if I die, I will die with Brother Bai." When Xiao Wuji heard this, he felt a little excited. Jianghu righteousness comes first, and brothers live and die together. This is the way of chivalry. But when he came back to his senses, he felt a little cold. The 2 grown men talked about death. Being together made him involuntarily get goosebumps all over his body. It seemed a bit gay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 133. Okay, if you want to save people, don't be in a hurry. Xiao Wuji said, "Do you know where he is now? Even if you want to save someone, you have to find someone first. With your current body, let alone looking for someone, I'm afraid the person will fall before you even take 2 steps." Before Xiao Wuji finished his words, he saw Gongsun Ao groaning, holding his chest and half kneeling down. You see, he fell down as soon as he said it, and he hadn't even walked yet. Xiao Wuji quickly called for the 2 generals to come up and help him. Gongsun Ao pushed away the 2 general banners, knelt down in front of Xiao Wuji, and said in a deep voice, "I, Gongsun Ao, have been kneeling to heaven and kneeling to my parents since I was born. Apart from that, I have never knelt to anyone else. But today I kneel to you and beg you, hoping that you can take action and save my friend's life. Please." After saying that, Gongsun Ao was about to kowtow to Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji raised his hand, and invisible palm power shot through the air, dragging Gongsun Ao's head. Xiao Wuji looked at Gongsun Ao and asked in a deep voice, "Is it worth it? To save a friend, give up your dignity and pride." Who is Gongsun Ao? He is naturally arrogant and unruly. He can accept death calmly, and even ridicule and curse those who anger the enemy. It is easy to kill him, but to make him kneel down and beg for mercy is beyond the reach of heaven. It's still difficult. Gongsun Ao's kneeling is equivalent to giving up his life's dignity and glory. It's hard to imagine that such a person would kneel down and kowtow to Xiao Wuji in order to save his friends. Xuehua, Song Liman, and others who saw the scene with their own eyes, everyone was shocked. None of them looked down on Gongsun Ao because he knelt down and kowtowed. Instead, they admired him even more. If you have a close friend in life, you will die without regrets. Xiao Wuji raised his hand, lifted Gongsun Ao up in the air, and said lightly, "I will send people to find him. If I can save him, I will save him. But if he is already dead, then all I can say is sorry." "I see." Gongsun Ao held the red blood spear tightly and said, "If he 560 dies, I will avenge him. Counting this time, I owe you 3 lives in total." "3 lives? How can you pay it back?" Xiao Wuji shook his head and laughed. "Even if you die for me once, you can only repay 1 life, and you still owe 2. Gongsun Ao said, "As long as you say it, I will not hesitate to break your body to pieces. This life is not over yet, there is the next life. If the next life is not over yet, then there is the next life. I, Gongsun Ao, will repay kindness and revenge, and I will never lie. Forget it, I don't want to be entangled with a rough guy for 3 lifetimes, it's disgusting to think about it." Xiao Wuji couldn't help but shuddered. 3 lives and 3 lives. Nausea. What's the meaning? Gongsun Ao was stunned and didn't understand the meaning of Xiao Wuji's words. "It's not interesting, don't worry about it." Xiao Wuji waved his hand and took Gongsun Ao, who was seriously injured, back to the downtown area and found a medical center for treatment. At the same time, Xiao Wuji also sent his men to inquire about the whereabouts of Bai Junchen. Jin Yiwei's spies spread all over the world, especially Jinling City. Secretly, I don't know how many informants there are. As long as Bai Junchen and the ghost-faced man appear, they will definitely leave clues. It doesn't take long to find news about him. As expected, Xiao Wuji just waited for a long time, and there were his men. He hurriedly came to report, "Sir, I have an informant to report that there was a big battle in the barren mountain of the ghost city." But when Jin Yiwei's men arrived, both fighting parties had disappeared, and only a broken folding fan was found at the scene. "Where is the folding fan?" Gongsun Ao next to him heard the word folding fan and quickly asked excitedly. Xiao Wuji looked at the guard in brocade and said, "Take it out." "Yes." The Jinyi guard handed over the broken folding fan respectfully, and Xiao Wuji took it and took a look. The fan bones were made of black iron, and the fan surface was woven from golden silk. Pfeff, there was also a picture of a lady visiting the lake painted on it. For a beautiful woman is riding a boat on the lake. The water lilies in the lake are delicate and beautiful. The painter is very good at painting and painted the maids and lotus flowers vividly. Next to the picture of the lady, there is also an inscription, a poem. But at this moment, only half of the picture of the lady and the poem are left. This fan is a first-class magic weapon, invulnerable to fire and water. But at this moment, only half of it is left, which shows how fierce the battle is. "Look, is it your friends?" Xiao Wuji handed the folding fan to Gongsun Ao. After looking at it, Gongsun Ao nodded and said, "Yes, it's Brother Bai's fan." Gongsun Ao grabbed the fan, his arm muscles bulged, veins popped out, and his bones creaked. He was obviously furious. Xiao Wuji said, before you see the body, everything is still unknown. Maybe your friend has escaped, or maybe he was just caught, and his life is not serious. Xiao Wuji said, if he is really captured, then you will be his only life-saving straw. Do you remember any characteristics about the ghost-faced man? Feature? Gong Soon. Ao thought carefully and then said he is wrapped in a black robe and wearing a mask with a ghost face. His appearance is invisible. His voice is low and hoarse. He must be quite old. That's it? That's it? Aren't you talking nonsense? Xiao Wuji rolled his eyes crazily. People wearing black robes and masks with ghost faces and hoarse and deep voices were everywhere. People in the world would dress up like this if they wanted to hide their identities. Not to mention outside Jinling City, they were in the ghost market. You can also find 1,800. Trying to find someone based on these characteristics is like looking for a needle in a haystack. Can't you remember any other characteristics? For example, that person's martial arts moves. Or some special weapon. Xiao Wuji asked. No more, really no more, I can only remember so much. Gong Soon Ao has a carefree temper. When someone wants to kill him, he will just go up and do it. If he can beat him, he will die. If he can't beat him, he will die himself. He never cares about the identity and origin of the enemy. To put it nicely, it is called doing whatever you want and being fearless. To put it badly, Gong Soon Ao is a reckless man. And as a reckless man, how can he care about these details? Xiao Wuji sighed helplessly. It's really unlucky for your friend to make friends with you. I've been suffering from bloody mold for 8 lifetimes. With only these clues so far, it is impossible to find your friend. Gong Soon Ao said. I know I am reckless, but Brother Bai is not. He will definitely leave clues. As he said that, Gong Soon Ao started to check the half of the folding fan again. This time he looked at it from beginning to end without missing a single detail. Suddenly, Gong Soon Ao's eyes lit up and he exclaimed, "Found it?" After saying that, Gong Soon Ao opened half of the folding fan and said, "Look at this blood stain, it should be from Brother Bai when he was injured, but 3 of the blood stains are, the lotus flower was lit again, and the blood stain was darker, which must have been intentional. If I guess correctly, this is the clue Brother Bai left for me. But what exactly does this lotus mean?" Gong Soon Ao frowned, unable to guess the meaning of Bai Junchan's red lotus. Gong Soon Ao is the kind of martial artist with a simple mind and well-developed limbs that people often say. Although he has good martial arts qualifications, he can't use his brain to do this. The matter was not his specialty. He couldn't come up with the true meaning despite racking his brains. But Xiao Wuji next to him had already thought of the most suspicious target. "It's the demon cult," Xiao Wuji said calmly. "Demonic cult?" Xiao Wuji looked at the lotus on the fan and said, "Yes, it's the demon section. The demon sect is also called the Black Lotus sect, which is exactly the meaning of the lotus. When your friend lights a red lotus, he must be reminding you that the ghost-faced man who is chasing him is from the demon cult. It turned out to be a demon sect, damn it." Gong Soon Ao's face turned gloomy instantly. The demon sect is a behemoth, and there are countless masters in the sect. With his strength, he is like an ant in front of the demon sect. Trying to save people is like throwing an egg against a stone, there is no chance. Even the arrogant Gong Soon Ao couldn't help but feel powerless when he thought that his enemy was the demon cult. Why? Why is the demonic cult targeting us? Brother Bai and I have never provoked anyone from the demon cult. Gong Soon Ao couldn't understand. Why would the superior demonic cult attack them for no reason? What did they have that the demonic cult coveted? Xiao Wuji couldn't understand either. The demonic cult's ultimate goal was to overthrow the Zhou dynasty and subvert the kingdom. Everyone in the world knows this. But in the process of revolting against China, no one can guess what the devil sect will have planned. The devil sect has always been secretive, and once it takes action, it must be linked to each other. This attack on Gongsun Ao and Bai Junchen may be just a small part of the demon sect's plan. Whether Gongsun Ao, Bai Junchen, or even Zhou Tianheng, who was killed, is just a small chess piece. Even because these are not all the chess pieces, there are more chess pieces besides them. This matter is related to the demonic cult, and this matter must be informed to third brother. Xiao Wuji stood up suddenly, wanting to take people back to Bijin Fuzi to report. Wait, take me with you. Gongsun. Ao stopped Xiao Wuji and said with a solemn expression, Brother Bai is trapped in the demon sect, I must save him. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said, you'd better heal your injuries first. Now you can't even kill a chicken, let alone killing people. I will tell you when I find out the news. No, I don't feel comfortable staying here. Gongsun. Ao said hurriedly. Master Gongsun, you should stay here. Shuehua on the side smiled bitterly and said, where in Bijin Fuzi can you go if you want to? Don't forget, you came to challenge Mr. Xiao yesterday. To be honest, there are still many people in Bijin Fuzi who hate you. As you are now, if you go to Bijin Fuzi Baokai, you will be put in a sack and beaten to death. Xiao Wuji glanced at Gongsun Ao and ordered one of his subordinates, send him to my small courtyard and let him recover there. I will let you know if there is any news later. After saying that, Xiao Wuji took the people away directly. Now Xiao Wuji lives in Su Mansion for 9.5 days out of 10. It has been a long time since he went back to live in his own small courtyard. It is also empty. It is better to let Gongsun Ao live temporarily. A few days. When he recovers from his injuries, it will be a big help in dealing with the demon cult. Returning to Bijin Fuzi, Xiao Wuji immediately went to see Yuan Xiong and recounted the cause and effect of the incident. I know, you did a good job on this matter. Yuan Xiong nodded and said, it's about the demon section. Even if there is a 1 in 10,000 chance, we can't be careless. You can continue to investigate this matter. You don't need to worry about Li's house. Remember, for the traitors of the demon sect, you would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let one go. Yuan Xiong's whole body was filled with fear, his face was as cold as frost, and his murderous aura was overflowing. Xiao Wuji said in a sonorous tone, I understand. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 134. Jinling City, the underground palace of the demon sect. The ghost emperor sat cross-legged behind the gauze tent. A dead soldier knelt at his feet and said respectfully, Master, Zhou Tianheng failed. Gongsun Ao was rescued by Xiao Wuji, deputy Qinhu of the Jinyi guards. Waste, all waste. The ghost emperor opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. I gave him a chance, but I didn't expect Zhou Tianheng, a waste, to be so useless. He also talked about avenging his father, which is really laughable. The dead man said respectfully, Zhou Tianheng was almost successful, but he didn't expect Xiao Wuji to suddenly come out. Zhou Tianheng was no match for Xiao Wuji and ultimately failed. It can only be said that God's calculation is better than that of man. Humph, Xiao Wuji, this little beast again. The ghost emperor's murderous aura became stronger. You have repeatedly ruined my good deeds, do you really think that I can't kill him? What about the evil blood sect? Did they get a reply? The dead man replied, not yet, but I think it will come soon. Okay, I have been cultivating the chess piece Shui Wuxian for so long, so it's time to put it to use. When Shui Wuxian comes to Jinling, inform me immediately. Also, how are you training medicine people? When will it mature? The dead man said back to the master, the latest batch of medicine people will be mature in as little as 10 days and as long as half a month. It's just that all these medicine men have lost their minds. Although they still retain their true energy, their combat power is not as good as before. It doesn't matter, they are just tools anyway, if they die, they will die. After they are all dead, just replace them with another batch. The Ghost Emperor's voice is cold, like a ghost king from the underworld, without any warmth. There is another palace on the lower level of this underground palace. There are densely packed figures standing here, as many as 1,000 people. These thousands people stood in line, eyes closed, like walking corpses. If they were not still breathing and heart beating, they would be indistinguishable from dead people. At a glance, thousands of living dead standing together were daunting and hairy. Ma. Evil Blood Sect. The 5 elders finally received the news of Shui Hongai's death. Impossible, absolutely impossible. In the palace of the Evil Blood Sect, an elder exclaimed and roared, "The deputy sect leader is extremely talented and powerful, how could he be defeated by that young boy Xiaoji? I absolutely don't believe it." The elder used his power with his palms and shattered the letters sent by the dead men of the demon cult into powder on the spot. I don't want to believe it either, but what reason do the people of the demon cult have to deceive us? Another elder said solemnly. Whether this news is true or false cannot withstand investigation. If it is to deceive us, what is the point? Is it possible that the deputy sect master is really dead? No. No, the deputy sect master wants to lead our evil blood sect to the top again, how could he die? Several elders shook their heads in disbelief. Xiaoji, damn Xiaoji, I must kill him. The red-faced elder had a hot temper and immediately wanted to rush out of the hall and go to Jinling for revenge. Calm down, 5th elder. An elder in black roared, then Xiaoji can defeat the deputy sect master and rank 4th on the earth rankings. How can you deal with it? The red-faced elder roared, so what, is it possible that the deputy sect master's revenge will not be avenged? It's not that we won't retaliate, it's just that we can't do it with the strength of the 5 of us. The elder in black said solemnly, at present, we can only ask the sect leader to come out and let him take charge of the overall situation. The other elders looked at each other with sad expressions, and sighed helplessly. That's all it can do. Shui Hongai's death was a huge blow to their evil blood sect. Although the 5 of them are all masters, they are all too old. The youngest is over 65 years old, and their potential has long been exhausted. On the road to martial arts, they have reached the end, and it is impossible to make any more breakthroughs in this life. Even as they get older and their energy and blood decline, their strength will regress. Shui Hongai is the only successor to the evil blood sect. Now Shui Hongai was killed, which means that the evil blood sect has no successor. It is simply impossible to cultivate another successor like Shui Hongai. Damn Xiaoji, even if I risk my life, I will kill him to avenge the deputy sect leader. The red-faced elder cursed bitterly. There is also the demon section. If the Ghost Emperor hadn't been so aggressive, the deputy sect leader wouldn't have died. Xiaoji and the demon sect should all die. The eyes of the 5 elders were cold, like poisonous snakes, and the hatred in their hearts towards Xiaoji and the Devil's Ghost Emperor reached its peak. Then, the 5 elders went to the back mountain of the evil blood sect together. There is a natural cave here, which was later transformed into a stone chamber. Shui Wuxian has been in seclusion here all year round. The 5 elders came to the entrance of the stone gate, knelt down on one knee at the same time, and said in unison, I have asked the sect leader to come out of seclusion. There has been a huge change in the sect, so I also ask the sect leader to come out and take charge of the overall situation. After the words fell, a man's voice came from inside the stone gate. The voice was very majestic and booming. What's the matter? The 5 elders looked at each other, and the elder answered, to report to the sect master, the deputy sect master has unfortunately passed away. Boom. With a bang, the stone door was violently broken open, and gravel was sprayed out. Large areas of blood mist spurted out from the stone chamber, instantly covering a radius of hundreds of meters. And the blood mist continued to spread and extend, even soaring into the sky. Wherever the blood mist went, all the flowers, plants, and trees withered and died. The terrifying momentum and pressure burst out, pressing on the shoulders of the 5 elders, like a big mountain, making them unable to breathe. Whoosh! A figure flashed. A majestic old man has appeared in front of the 5 elders. This man's beard and hair are all blood red, and although there are wrinkles on his face, there are not many. His whole body is solemn and indifferent, and he is not angry. He is the leader of the evil blood sect, the bloodless section born. What happened? Why did Hong Ai die? Shui Wuxian lowered his head and stared at the 5 elders in front of him, and asked, his voice was extremely cold, as if it could freeze human blood. Returning to the sect master, everything happened because of the demon cult and the ghost emperor. The great elder recounted what happened to Shui Wuxian in detail, without missing a single bit. Shui Wuxian was so angry that he was trembling with anger. A pair of fists were tightly pressed together, and the nails were already pierced. Palms, dripping with blood. Ghost Emperor! Ghost Emperor! You killed my son, and I have nothing to do with you. Shui Wuxian looked up to the sky and roared. His voice was like the roar of a tiger and the roar of a dragon, shaking the entire mountain. The blood mist that filled the sky was pulled by Shui Wuxian, and exploded, sweeping in all directions. For a time, the sky within a radius of 1,000 meters was covered with smoke. Shrouded in blood mist. Hong Yi, it was your father who harmed you. Shui Wuxian had tears in his eyes, and was filled with grief. If he hadn't accepted the gift from the Ghost Emperor and couldn't help himself, how could Shui Hong Ai be killed? The cause of yesterday is the result of today. In the final analysis, the origin of everything, it all comes from the gift he received from the Ghost Emperor many years ago. Ghost Emperor, Xiaowuji. The hatred of killing your son is irreconcilable. I swear on my blood that I will definitely kill you. Shui Wuxian looked up at the sky with a ferocious expression and cold eyes. The cold murderous intention in it was like substance, emitting bursts of cold light. Xiaowuji killed Shui Hong Ai with his own hands, damn it. The demon cult Ghost Emperor is the leader behind the scenes, and even more damn it. Please give me flowers. From today on, Shui Wu lives only for these 2 things. To report to the sect leader, when the Ghost Emperor sent someone to deliver the letter, he also said that if you want to take revenge on Xiaowuji, you can rush to Jinling as soon as possible to discuss important matters together. Suddenly, the great elder spoke. Shui Wuxian's eyes flashed, and he said in a cold voice, this is what I have in mind. With Shui Wuxian's resourcefulness, how could he not guess that the Ghost Emperor was using him by asking him to go to Jinling? But Shui Wuxian didn't care. His son was dead and he had nothing to lose. The Ghost Emperor was using him, he can also use the Ghost Emperor to seek revenge. Whether he is alive or dead, no one knows the outcome until the end. Great Elder, after I left the sect, the evil blood sect closed the mountain gate and was not allowed to have contact with the outside world. If I do not come back, you will take over as the leader of the evil blood section at the same time. The evil blood sect will move away and you will never have any contact with the demon sect again. Shui Wuxian looked at the great elder and ordered. No, this is absolutely impossible. The great elder was stunned for a moment, and quickly replied in panic, my subordinates are old and frail, and their strength is low. How can they take on such a big responsibility? Please also ask the sect master to choose another worthy person. The matter was settled. Shui Wuxian took a deep look at the great elder and sighed. I, Shui Wuxian, am a sinner of the evil blood section. If it weren't for me, the evil blood sect would not be targeted by the demon sect, so that today I can't help myself. It was decided like this. With the great elder taking the lead and the other 4 elders assisting, it is enough to ensure the continuity of our evil blood section. Keep this in mind. The evil blood sect must not have any contact with the demon cult in the future, otherwise the evil blood sect will surely perish. I'm going to go too. After saying that, Shui Wuxian turned into a blood shadow and shot out into the distance. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. Metropolitan. The five elders were shocked and shouted at Shui Ying, but Shui Wuxian had already disappeared. The five of them all heard the desperate meaning in Shui Wuxian's words. If Shui Wuxian goes away, it will probably be a disaster. It is very likely that he will never come back. The five elders wanted to persuade Shui Wuxian not to go, but that was impossible. The demon sect Ghost Emperor personally spoke, and Shui Wuxian had no right to refuse. A few days later, Jinling City, Bijin Fuzi, a monk in Huzhuo. Xiao Wuji was lying on a bench, basking in the sun leisurely, holding a file in his hand and reading it. The file records all the missing people around Jinling, and these people, they are all martial artists, not ordinary people. For several days in a row, the Jin Yiwei of Fuzi in Bijin did not find the whereabouts of the golden-faced Lion King, so that everyone's enthusiasm was greatly reduced. However, Xiao Wuji secretly investigated the demon sect, but there was some gains. Since the demon sect secretly took action against Jianghu warriors, Xiao Wuji started to investigate from this direction. After checking the files, Xiao Wuji found some clues. In the past 2 months, or even earlier, various places around Jinling, many Jianghu warriors have disappeared in the county. Many of them are innate masters, and there are also several powerful masters. Most of these people are casual cultivators without any sect or warriors from small families. Jin Yiwei sent special personnel to investigate, except for a few corpses found. Except for this, nothing else was found. The number of corpses found was less than 1% compared to the number of missing people. But because the missing people were all martial arts warriors, and no victims reported the case, the Jin Yiwei did not take it seriously. After all, Jianghu matters, Jianghu affairs. As long as it does not threaten the court or endanger the people, Jin Yiwei has always taken a resigned approach to Jianghu vendettas. Jianghu vendettas happen all the time, it is not a big deal. There are a little more missing warriors this time, maybe Jianghu another murderous maniac appeared. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 135. When the Mad Devil's identity is exposed in the future, it will be too late for Jin Yiwei to take action to eradicate him. He can also take the opportunity to win over the people and establish his authority over the world's warriors. If Xiao Wuji hadn't known in advance that the demon cult might be involved behind the scenes, he wouldn't have cared. With so many martial artists missing at the same time, what on earth is the demon cult doing? Xiao Wuji looked at the file in his hand and fell into deep thought. By analyzing various clues, Xiao Wuji felt that the possibility that the mastermind behind the scenes was the demonic cult was getting more and more likely. If the suspicion of the demonic cult was 20% before, now it has risen to 50%. Apart from the demon cult, who has such a powerful ability to arrest so many Jianghu warriors? Who can do things so cleanly? Even Jin Yiwei can't find many clues. Only the demon cult has such strength. Is it possible that the demon cult also lacks manpower? Are you arresting people to replenish manpower? Xiao Wuji shook his head and laughed, and quickly put this idea behind him. The demon sect is the largest sect in the Zhou dynasty. There are many masters in the sect, and there are more than 100,000 followers at the bottom. How can it be short of manpower? At this moment, a member of the Jin Yiwei general banner hurriedly came to report, "Sir, an informant has come to report that a fight broke out in the western suburbs. Both sides of the fight are suspected to be strong masters, asking for support." When Xiao Wuji heard this, a cold light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and he immediately stood up and ordered, "Let's go to the western suburbs." Xiao Wuji immediately led his people to a small forest in the western suburbs of 290. When Xiao Wuji arrived at the scene, there was already a Jin Yiwei general flag team arriving in advance. His subordinate Lu Mengsheng joined Xiao Qianhu. After the leader of the team saw Xiao Wuji, he quickly stepped forward and saluted respectfully. Xiao Wuji waved his hand and said, "Okay, no need to be polite, let's talk about the situation at the scene." Xiao Wuji said as he walked and came to a battle mark. Lu Mengsheng followed Xiao Wuji and told the details of the matter one by one. Lu Mengsheng also came out to patrol the streets today. Although there are many thousands and hundreds of households in Fuzi, Beijing, we have given up hope of finding the golden masked Lion King. However, many general banners and small flags do not want to miss this opportunity. The Jinyai Way has a strict hierarchy. This is a rare opportunity. As long as clues about the golden masked Lion King are found, they can hug the thick thigh of Li Mansion. This Lu Mengsheng is one of the people who wants to hug the thick thigh of Li Mansion. He led his people to patrol the streets all day long, but found nothing. I thought that today would be a waste of effort again, so I wanted to go back, but I didn't expect to encounter a battle between masters. Although the western suburbs are a suburb, they are also within the city of Jinling. The two men fought in the western suburbs. The aftermath of the battle destroyed many houses and killed many innocent people. Since Jin Yiwei saw it, naturally, he had to take care of it. So he sent a message back to Bijin Fuzi to ask for help, and then Xiao Wuji arrived. "Who are the two parties fighting?" Xiao Wuji asked. A trace of fear flashed in Lu Mensheng's eyes, and he shook his head and said, "Those two people were too strong, and my subordinates did not dare to approach them, so they did not see their appearance clearly. But when the two of them were confronting each other, the subordinates could still vaguely see that one of the two was wearing a black robe and a ghost face mask. The other person is holding a judge's pen as a weapon. He is tall and tall. He does not look like a scholar or a martial artist. He is a bit nondescript." The two exchanged 20 or 30 moves, and finally the ghost-faced man won the final victory and captured the other person. The subordinates were incompetent and could not catch up with the ghost-faced man, so they could only watch him escape. Another ghost-faced man? It seems that the demon cult has taken action again. Xiao Wuji remained silent. When he heard that a ghost-faced man appeared, he immediately thought of the demon cult. Because the person who attacked Gongsun Ao's best friend Bai Junchen was also a ghost-faced man. Is there any master in the world who uses the judge's pen as a weapon? Xiao Wuji was thinking about the identity of the person fighting the ghost-faced man. The most commonly used weapons in the world are swords, or spears, hammers, and maces. The judge's pen is a side weapon, and there are very few warriors who use this weapon. Little, let alone a grandmaster. Could it be him? Iron Hand Judge. Xiao Wuji suddenly thought of a person. Iron-handed Judge Shi's Hongai. His unique weapon is a judge's pen, and he is a master in the early stage of the master, and he has been hanging around Jinling all year round. Shi's Hongai is not a member of the imperial court. But he is inextricably linked to the imperial court. He is a bounty hunter. The imperial court sends out arrest documents to capture criminal thieves, murderers, or remnants of the demon section. Each target will receive a reward. As long as the target is caught, regardless of life or death, you can get a silver reward. So the profession of bounty hunter came into being. There are many bounty hunters in the world, and the iron-handed Judge Shi's Hongai is one of the best. He has cooperated with Jin Yiwei and Lai Aman for many years to provide the two major agencies arrested many criminals and thieves. Jin Yiwei and Lai Aman took a fancy to Shi's Honggai's strength and sent people to recruit them many times. However, Shi's Honggai declined because he did not want to be bound by the rules and only wanted to be a free bounty hunter. Was Iron Hand Judge Shi's Honggai also taken away? If he can capture a master alive, then the ghost-faced man is not weak. Xiao Wuji secretly thought. It is easy to kill people, but it is difficult to capture him alive. This proves that the ghost-faced man is far stronger than the iron-handed Judge Shi's Hongai. He is at least a mid-level master. Xiao Wuji surveyed the scene of the fight. Fan. More than a dozen big trees were broken, apparently caused by the force of the palm. Rubbles were scattered on the ground, and one layer of the ground was lifted up. Finally, Xiao Wuji saw a huge black palm print. Yama's evil palm. I haven't seen this palm technique for a long time. With this palm print, Xiao Wuji's suspicion of the demon sect increased from 50% to 90%. Although the Yama Sha palm is spread among many evil sects, only people in the demon sect can learn the essence of it. This Yama Sha palm, the palm was already fully developed, and it was almost exactly the same as the one used by the demon sect Tiangang Hall master Xiao Wuji had encountered before, and even a little more powerful. Based on this, it was certain that the ghost-faced man must be a member of the demon sect. After surveying the scene, Xiao Wuji immediately rushed back to Bijin Fuzi and informed Yuan Xiong of the findings here. After hearing Xiao Wuji's analysis, Yuan Xiong's face became more solemn. According to what you said, the demon cult has been secretly arresting martial arts masters. Yes. Have you ever counted how many martial arts masters have disappeared? At least 100 people. Xiao Wuji said according to the files recorded by Jin Yiwei, at least 100 masters of martial arts have disappeared in the counties around Jinling in the past 2 months. Most of them are innate masters, and there are 2 grandmasters, including today's Iron Hand Judge Shi's Honggai is the 3rd one. But I think these are not the only masters captured by the demon cult, there will be even more. What is the demon sect going to do? Yuan Xiong's expression was cold, his eyes were deep and dark, and he was murderous. I don't know, before the demon cult took the initiative, none of us knew what their conspiracy was. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said. By the time they show up, it's already too late. Yuan Xiong slapped the tea table and shouted in a deep voice. No, we cannot sit still and wait for death, we must prepare early. Yuan Xiong suddenly stood up from his chair, looked at Xiao Wuji and said, continue to trace the whereabouts of the remnants of the demon sect and see what other discoveries you make. I want to go to the palace and inform the commander of this matter. Okay, I understand. Yuan Xiong patted Xiao Wuji's shoulder and said, thank you for your hard work. If this matter can be solved satisfactorily, third brother will ask for credit for you. Also, don't show off, pay attention to your own safety. The demon cult is not easy to mess with. If you encounter a strong enemy, your first priority is to ensure your own safety. Yuan Xiong's words were full of concern. Xiao Wuji nodded and said, don't worry, third brother, I'm still young, I haven't enjoyed enough of this colorful world, and I don't want to die young. Yuan Xiong shook his head and laughed, turned around and strode away. Xiao Wuji also stepped out of the central hall of Qinhuizhuo. Although there were several more battles between Jianghu masters, Xiao Wuji took a step late each time. When Xiao Wuji came, the battle has ended long ago, and the ghost-faced man has fled long ago. Jinling City, Demon Sect Underground Palace. Master, Jin Yiwei has discovered that we were the cause behind the disappearance of the martial arts master. Xiao Wuji has been tracking us these days. A dead soldier knelt at the feet of the Ghost Emperor and reported respectfully. The Ghost Emperor snorted disdainfully and said, so what if I find out? It's too late for them to realize now, and they don't expect those idiots in Jin Yiwei to guess my true plot. As for Xiao Wuji, if he wants to investigate, let him investigate. Anyway, he won't be able to find any useful clues. He is already a dying man, let him dance around for a few more days. What about blood without life? Where is he? Returning to the master, Shui Wuxian has arrived in Jinling and is on standby at the palace. Okay, it'll be good when people arrive. The Ghost Emperor's eyes glowed with blood, and he said in a cold voice, this is my order, 7 days later, the dragon will be slain forever night. Yes, I obey. At this moment, the dead man's voice, which had never had any emotional fluctuations, also changed a little, and produced a little wave. It was excitement and excitement. 7 days passed by in a flash. In the early morning of this morning, Xiao Wuji woke up from his sleep. Walking out of the room, Xiao Wuji took a deep breath of the fresh morning air and felt extremely comfortable. He looked up at the sky was clear and blue, pure and flawless, without any flaws. The sun shone down, and the earth was warm, which made people feel happy. Pleasurable. But suddenly, Xiao Wuji frowned. For some reason, he suddenly felt a little depressed in his heart and the air was a little stuffy. There was no reason, no warning, just a faint feeling. On a whim. Xiao Wuji frowned slightly. He believing in his whim, he felt that something terrible would happen today. After giving Su Weiner and his father-in-law and mother-in-law instructions not to go out today, Xiao Wuji went straight to Bijin Fuzi. Same as before. It was the same for several days, and Xiao Wuji got nothing on this day. Time soon came to the evening. I hope my worries are unfounded. Xiao Wuji was thinking silently in his heart. At this moment, there was a sudden exclamation, "Look!" Xiao Wuji heard the sound and walked out. He saw Shui Hua, Song Liman and a group of Jin Yiwei gathered in the yard. Everyone looked up at the sky and pointed. Xiao Wuji also looked up at the sky, and saw the sunset slowly setting in the distant sky. The glow is endless. The golden sunset in the past has become a little red today, and the color is getting darker and darker, and it is blood red in the blink of an eye. Large swaths of flaming clouds appear in the sky, stretching between east, west, north, and south, like blood-colored mountains suspended in the sky. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 136. The layers of fire-burning clouds turned into many strange creatures. Some are like tigers, some are like fire phoenixes, and some are like real dragons, biting each other as if they are fighting fiercely. The Huashaiyun was dyed red by the blood of these strange beasts. Xiao Wuji flew down and landed on the eaves, looking at the thousands of miles of blood clouds in the sky, his expression extremely solemn. Strange phenomena appear in the sky, and there must be monsters. Jinling City, Wanhua Tower, in a Tianzihao elegant room. Old man Tianji pushed away the stunning courtesan in his arms and looked at the thousands of miles of flaming clouds in the sky. His eyes turned white, but instantly changed back to their original appearance, and then he smiled and said, "Interesting, now it's interesting. Jinling City is worthy of being the imperial city of the Zhou dynasty. It is really lively. Old God, what did you say that was interesting?" The Warren poured wine for the old man Tianji and asked with a breath like orchid. Old man Tianji took the Warren into his arms and said with a smile, "Of course you Warrens are interesting. Is there anything more interesting in this world than you? As the ancients said, only good wine and beautiful women should not be let down. Now that all the wine and beautiful people are here, it is truly the bliss of the world." The Warren covered his mouth and chuckled. "Old immortal, your words are too profound, I can't understand them." Old man Tianji said, "Forget it if you don't understand. Come on, let's continue playing music and dancing." After finishing a glass of wine, old man Tianji once again turned into a cynical, carefree, and wretched old man. The dramatic changes in the outside world did not at all disturb old man Tianji's interest in listening to music. On top of a tall building in Jinling City, there was a bloody figure with his hands behind his back. Standing, it was Shui Wuxian. He looked up at the sky and murmured to himself, "All cause and effect happen tonight 15. Ghost Emperor, it's time to put an end to the grudge between you and me." The voice was so soft that only Shui Wuxian himself could hear it. Whoosh! Suddenly there was a soft sound, and a figure appeared behind Shui Wuxian. He knelt down on one knee and saluted. "Sir, everything is ready. The Ghost Emperor has ordered, and you must follow it. Plan and act." Shui Wuxian didn't look back and said calmly, "I understand." As soon as he finished speaking, the person behind him suddenly let out a muffled groan. He clutched his chest and fell down, his face full of pain and his expression distorted. The man struggled violently, looked at Shui Wuxian's back and stretched out his hand, as if he wanted to say something. But he couldn't say a word. He saw that the skin of the man's body became hot and red, and the blood vessels under the skin were clearly visible, and all the blood burst out. Then the man's flesh and blood spontaneously ignited without fire. This wave the flames burned from within the body and instantly burned the man to ashes. Shui Wuxian waved his sleeves, and the wind from his palm blew away all the ashes without leaving any trace. Then Shui Wuxian also disappeared from the tall building. Above, everything before seemed to be an illusion, never appearing from beginning to end. In the center of Suanwu Street in Jinling City, an old beggar on crutches was limping. One of his feet was disabled, could only walk with a cane. Holding a broken bowl, he walked up to a wealthy young man and prayed, "Please do me a favor, please reward me with some money. I haven't eaten for 3 days." The luxurious young man looked at the beggar with disgust, held his nose and stepped back, cursing, "Where did the stinky beggar come from? This young master is going to ask for money. Get out of here, otherwise I will break your other dog leg." After saying that, Mr. Huigi spat and walked away, his eyes scanning the women on the street. The old beggar looked at Mr. Huigi's leaving back, shook his head and sighed, murmuring to himself. He said, "If God does evil, you can forgive it. If you do evil on your own, you will not live. The old beggar wanted to save your life, but it's a pity that you didn't use it when he gave you a chance." After saying that, the old beggar shook his head and limped away. But the moment the old beggar turned his head, the luxurious young man suddenly let out a scream and fell to the street with a thud, rolling on the ground, crying and wailing. The passers-by were startled and hid one after another. Everyone looked at the young master rolling on the ground and pointing. They saw that the young master kept tearing the skin all over his body until he scratched himself to pieces. There was no trace of anything on his body. His skin was still intact. Immediately afterwards, black blood flowed out of the young master's 7 orifices. After just a few breaths, the young master died completely. His eyes were wide open, and there was still endless fear and unwillingness in his eyes. Dead people. Seeing the young master die in front of his eyes, the onlookers were all frightened and screamed and shouted. The women all ran away, and the men also fled one after another. There were a few bold Jianghu people who stayed in place. After taking a look from a distance, I roughly judged that the young master died of poisoning. But I don't know who poisoned him and what kind of poison was given. A living person was poisoned to death in the blink of an eye. The death was so miserable and unbearable to watch. This is not something that ordinary people who use poison can do. The person who poisoned must be a master of poison. The warriors in the world did not dare to stay longer for fear of getting into trouble, so they left in a hurry. This young master was the first to be poisoned, but he was not the last one. In the evening alone, 20 or 30 people died of poisoning, all in the same manner. Without exception, the last person they came into contact with before death was the old beggar. Qinglong of Jinling City. On the street, a middle-aged man smelling of alcohol and wearing tattered clothes walked into a wine shop. "Waiter, fill the wine gourd for me with the best wine." The middle-aged man's eyes were hazy, and he slapped a wine gourd on the counter as if he was drunk. The waiter was startled by the man, but when he saw a distinguished guest coming, he immediately smiled and flattered him, and then took off the wine gourd. Wine. But the moment he took the wine gourd, the wine shop waiter almost fell over. Because the small wine gourd weighed 50 or 60 kilograms, he needed to use all his strength and grit his teeth to hold it. "Have to move." "Who is this?" Do you use such a heavy gourd for drinking? What's your hobby? The waiter rolled his eyes wildly in his heart, complained subconsciously, turned around and started pouring wine into the wine gourd. Soon, the wine gourd was full, but it was also heavier. The waiter moved the wine gourd to the counter, and heard there was a click, and a crack was created on the counter made of fine pear wood. The man, smelling of alcohol, picked up the wine gourd with one hand like a bowl, took a sip of strong wine, and then squirted hard. He came out, sprayed the waiter in the face, and said angrily, "Is your store selling a fake bar? It tastes so bad, why is it the same as horse urine?" The waiter was frightened and said with a smile, "Objective, you are joking. This store is a century-old store, how can it sell fake wine?" The man's face darkened and he said angrily, "Are you saying that I have wronged you? I never accuse people unjustly. If I say you sell fake wine, you are selling fake wine." The waiter's face also darkened. No matter how stupid he was, he knew that this big man was here to cause trouble. Just when he was about to go find the shopkeeper to come out and solve the problem, he saw the big man slap him. With a snap, the waiter slapped him. His head was blown open, and the headless body collapsed. The middle-aged man's face turned red and he burped from wine, and said inarticulately, "If you dare to sell fake wine to me, this will be your fate." As he spoke, he drank all the wine in the wine gourd in one breath, and then lifted the wine gourd. With a bang, the thick real energy burst out from the man's body, instantly shattering all the wine jars in the wine shop. Drinking wine splashing, under the pull of internal force, it automatically flew into the wine gourd like a stream, and filled the gourd. After that, the man staggered and staggered away, gradually drifting away. After a long time, the wine only then did the boss of the shop dare to come out of the backyard and report to the official in a panic. This is Jinling City, and someone dares to kill people in broad daylight. It is simply lawless. At the same moment, not only Suanwu Street and Qinglong, dozens of murders also occurred on the streets, Beihu Street and Zuk Street. The murderers were all martial artists. The killed were men, women, old and young, including powerful, wealthy businessmen and ordinary people. These martial arts warriors were just like they had agreed. They suddenly launched an attack at the same time, killing people in every corner of Jinling City, creating chaos and catching the court by surprise. Officials from the Jingzhou Mansion Yamen and the Ministry of Justice received hundreds of reports at the same time, and quickly dispatched all the arrests, send them all out. But as time goes by, the number of murder cases continues to rise, and even if all the detectives are sent out, it will not help. Moreover, all the people involved in this case are Jianghu warriors. In the end, the case was transferred to Jinyue and Liamen. Organization. Xiao Wuji, who was originally scheduled to be sent to 437, was temporarily summoned to stay. "Mr. Xiao, there was a murder case on Zuk Street. The murderer was a woman dressed in a flashy dress. There were as many as a dozen people dead. Please Mr. Xiao, please arrest her quickly and bring her to justice, whether alive or dead." A general bannerman came to Xiao Wuji and reported respectfully. Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "I understand." Then, Xiao Wuji led people to Zuk Street. In the middle of the street, there was a beautifully dressed woman, who was extremely coquettish and had a hot and charming figure. But at the moment she seemed a little crazy, standing on the street holding a red handkerchief. There was dancing in the center, and an opera was singing. At the woman's feet, there were more than a dozen corpses, both men and women. These corpses did not have any external injuries, except for a blood spot between the eyebrows, which proved that these people had their heads covered with gold. He died after being pierced by a needle. All the pedestrians on the street ran away, and only a few bold gangsters hid in the distance, watching the crazy woman posing from a distance, enjoying themselves. Xiao Wuji glanced at the scene and ordered, "Take her down." Subordinates obey. Shuihua and Song Liman clasped their fists to accept the order, and they both drew their swords and moved forward at the same time. When the woman saw the arrival of the Jin Yiwei, not only was she not afraid, but she showed a charming smile. "My lord, come and play." As she said that, the woman rushed up to Shuihua and Song Liman, and the three of them fought together. This woman's strength is just a first-class warrior, and either Shuihua or Song Liman is stronger than her. The two of them working together are even more powerful. He crushed her directly, but captured the woman alive in just a few moves. "Got it, my lord." Shuihua pressed the woman and came to Xiao Wuji and said. Xiao Wuji waved his hand and said, "Let's take him down for trial." But before she finished speaking, the woman suddenly smiled charmingly at Xiao Wuji, her eyes turned as red as blood, and her expression was extremely ferocious. Then the woman groaned in pain, then vomited black blood and fell to the ground dead. Shuihua took a look. The woman took a breath, shook her head and said, "Sir, she is dead." "Died? Just die? What is going on with this woman? A dead soldier? Or crazy?" Song Liman was confused and couldn't figure it out at all. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 137. A crazy woman killed someone in public, and instead of running away, she stayed where she was and danced. After being caught by Jin Yiwei, she immediately committed suicide. You have no idea what her purpose was. If it was for the purpose of killing, then you should run away after killing the person. Besides, killing a group of civilians won't bring much benefit. To put it bluntly, what qualifications do a group of helpless civilians have to attract a dead soldier to kill them? What exactly is going on? Many Jin Yiwei looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Xiao Wuji was also confused at the moment and couldn't figure out the situation. But he felt that this matter was not simple and was most likely just a precursor. "Take the body back." Xiao Wuji looked at his men and ordered. As soon as he finished speaking, a frightened scream suddenly came to his ears. Xiao Wuji suddenly turned his head and judged that the scream was coming from the street next to him, and immediately turned into a bolt of lightning. Laser out. With a flash of lightning, Xiao Wuji crossed hundreds of meters and came to a roof. Xiao Wuji looked ahead and saw a woman being chased by a man on the street. The man's face was full of flesh, with a smiling evilly. She ran and shouted, but her speech was unclear and she was mumbling like a madman. The woman suddenly tripped over a stone and fell to the ground. She could only sit paralyzed on the ground and watched in horror as the man rushed toward him. Shouted in despair. Xiao Wuji flicked his fingers, and the invisible finger force shot out of the air, like a hidden weapon, instantly piercing the man's Tianling cap and killing him. When the woman came back to her senses, she only saw lying in front of her a corpse. As for Xiao Wuji's figure, he has long since disappeared. After killing the man, Xiao Wuji used Qinggong to reach a high tower, and his six senses were fully opened. From time to time, calls for help and arrogant laughter came from Xiao Wuji's ears. There were sounds and screams. We also saw teams of Jin Yiwei shuttled through the streets and alleys, arresting the murderers and rescuing injured people at the same time. The police officers from the 6 doors were also dispatched to join forces with the Jin Yiwei to capture the murderers. What exactly is going on? Xiao Wuji frowned and his face became more and more solemn. All the current situations all indicate that something big is happening in Jinling City. The sun sets quickly, the sky becomes darker and darker, and the blood-red clouds in the sky become bigger and bigger. Like mountains suspended above Jinling City, as if they would fall down at any time, full of oppression. Xiao Wuji went back to lead the team, and on the way back to Bijinfuzi, he solved 7 or 8 murderers. These people were countless with one exception, they are all incoherent and delirious lunatics. Come on, don't let him get away. Walking to a cross street, Xiao Wuji met a man who was running away. Behind him, a group of 6-door policemen were chasing him. When the man saw Xiao Wuji and others wearing the clothes of Jin Yiwei, his fierce look suddenly showed. Raised his palm to hit Xiao Wuji. When the 6-door policemen saw this, they immediately shouted a warning, "Be careful, that person is an innate master, don't fight forcefully." Boom. Before the police officer finished speaking, he saw Xiao Wuji slap the man's Tianling cap with his palm. With a heavy slap, the man's head was slapped directly into his chest, and he fell to the ground dead. The 6-door policeman suddenly took a breath of air, and the speaker's subsequent words were all stuck in his throat, and he couldn't say even a single word. This is this dead? He was an innate master, and he killed him so easily. The leader of the team is a silver-clad head catcher, equivalent to 100 households in Jinyue, and he is also an innate master. But he had fought with that man before, and he couldn't defeat him despite trying his best, and he even escaped. But he didn't. Thinking that the criminals he regarded as powerful enemies could not make a single move in front of Xiao Wuji. "Many, thank you for your help, sir. I'll arrest you Konkan in silver clothes at the next 6 doors. I dare to ask your name." Xiao Wuji glanced at him and said, "You're welcome." After saying that, he took the people away directly. When Shuihua passed by Yukonkan, he said proudly, "My lord's name is Xiao Wuji, and he has thousands of households in Jinyue. You must have heard of it." Behind Shuihua and Song Liman, a group of royal guards held their heads high and walked out as if they were disowning their relatives. They wanted to be as arrogant as they wanted. Following Xiao Wuji was their greatest confidence. Xiao Wuji? He is Xiao Wuji, Xiao Qinhu. Currently ranked 4th on the local list. No wonder he has such strength, he really deserves his reputation. This is a top master. After Yukonkan learned Xiao Wuji's name, his face showed a look of reverence, as did the dozen or so agents behind him. Being able to have close contact with Xiao Wuji and getting a helping hand from him was enough for them to go back and brag for a while. "Sir, things are not simple today." On the way back to Bijin Fuzi, Shuihua suddenly said. Song Liman also nodded and said, "This group of killers is very unusual, completely different from the killers I have seen before. So many killers seem to have no purpose, just killing for the sake of killing, simply wanting to cause chaos." Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "I have also noticed that these people are being manipulated and they can't help themselves." Being manipulated? No wonder. When Shuihua and Song Liman heard this, they instantly understood why these killers were crazy and delirious. It turned out that they were all controlled, and now they are just living puppets. Who is behind the scenes? What is their purpose? Shuihua and Song Liman were indignant. Xiao Wuji was silent, but he had already guessed who was behind the scenes. Apart from the demon cult, there was no other possibility. Back to Bijin Fuzi, the sky had turned completely dark. Xiao Wuji went to Qinhuizhuo and reported to Yuan Xiong the situation in Jinling and his suspicions. "I am thinking the same thing as you, this must be the conspiracy of the demon cult." Yuan Xiong looked at Xiao Wuji and said, "It's just that right now, I still can't figure out what the demon sect's real intention is. Are they sending so many killers just to kill a group of insignificant people and create chaos?" Xiao Wuji shook his head and said, "Definitely not. The demon sect's conspiracy is not so obvious. They must have a backup plan." As soon as he finished speaking, there was an emergency report outside the door. A guard general in Jinyi hurriedly ran over and said in a panic, "This is to inform Mr. Qinhu, Mr. Zhao Qingsong, the right minister of the Ministry of Household Affairs, has been assassinated. There is a fire in the house. Zhao's house is now gone." It was a sea of fire. The servants from the mansion came to report and asked for rescue. "What did you say?" Yuan Xiong's face changed drastically, and his eyes widened. Before Yuan Xiong could speak again, another General Banner ran in from the door, reporting to Lord Qinhu, Lord Duruhe, the governor of Jingzhou Mansion, has been assassinated, please ask for rescue. Yuan Xiong's face was ashen. At this moment, the third guard in Jinyi came to report, my uncle Jolin was assassinated, and all the guards in the mansion were killed. Please ask for rescue. The fourth Jinyi Wei came to report, a large-scale poisoning incident occurred in Pingkangfang. The number of dead has reached 300, and the number of victims is still increasing. May I ask, sir, how to deal with it? Yuan Xiong's face was completely gloomy, so dark that he could drip water. Xiao Wuji just said that the demon sect must have a backup plan. I didn't expect the backup plan to come so quickly. First, they sent a large number of killers to randomly kill people in Jinling. Chaos was created in the city. Later, assassins were sent to assassinate court officials and even poisoned on a large scale, making the turmoil even more intense. What on earth does the demonic cult want to do? Are they planning to rebel tonight? Yuan Xiong was furious and slapped the tea table next to him to pieces. Xiao Wuji said the top priority is to send people to rescue those imperial officials who were assassinated, and even to send people to protect all officials. Also, people should be sent to deal with the poisoned areas. The patrol manpower in various parts of Jinling City must be doubled. Most importantly, protect His Majesty's safety. The demon sect is so menacing, and its purpose is not just simple people and officials. The ultimate target must be His Majesty the Emperor. Xiao Wuji suddenly remembered that a few months ago, he interrogated the demon sect's Tian Laoxing and found out that 3 of the demon sect's Tiangang Hall masters had lurked into the palace. Tonight, the demon sect is launching a massive attack, and they will definitely take action. Yuan Xiong nodded solemnly and said, what you said makes sense. I think so too. I will arrange manpower immediately. The people at Liaomenmen and Dongchang must have the same idea as us. As for the poisoning incident, the people from the 4 Elephant Corps should be able to handle it. Wuji, you are good at Qinggong. First rush to Jingzhou Mansion, which is nearest to here. After you save Duruhe, it is up to you to decide what to do. In short, in one sentence, no one of these damn demon sect traitors can be spared. When Yuan Xiong spoke, his eyes flashed with cold light, and his murderous intent was revealed. Xiao Wuji cupped his fists and accepted the order. Yes, I obey your orders. After saying that, Xiao Wuji tossed his cloak, turned around and strode away. Night fell, and the entire Jinling city was shrouded in darkness. This city, which was known as the safest and most harmonious city in the Zhou dynasty in the past, was in incomparable chaos tonight. Xiao Wuji used the fully leveled lightning god rush to Jingzhou Mansion. Along the way, he saw flames all over Jinling city. Killers would appear on the streets from time to time. They would kill everyone they saw just to create chaos. Some local ruffians also took the opportunity to come out and cause chaos. They smashed, looted property, killing people. The Jinyi guards, the 6 gates, the 4 Elephant Corps of the city guards, and the police officers from various yamen were all dispatched. Wang Hao searched for the killers in Jinling city, rescued the people, and maintained law and order. In short, Jinling city has now completely fallen into a state of chaos. Wow, a bolt of lightning quickly shuttled through the dark night. With a flash of lightning, it had teleported 100 meters away. On a street, a group of Jinyi guards were chasing 2 killers. As soon as the lightning flashed, the heads of the 2 killers flew up. Anyway, it was along the way, so Xiao Wuji easily solved them. When the Jinyi Wei arrived, they only saw 2 headless corpses. It's Xiao Qinhu. Some of the Jinyi guards recognized the lightning and confirmed Xiao Wuji's identity. The morale of many Jinyi guards was boosted. We have Xiao Qinhu leading us, these killers are nothing to worry about. Brothers, kill all these evil thieves? How dare you cause trouble in Jinling city? You don't take our Jinyi guards seriously at all. Kill them all. After that, the Jin Wei worked even harder to kill the enemy. Whoosh! The electric light that shuttled rapidly through the night finally stopped, and Xiao Wuji showed his true body, appearing on an attic. The person under his feet at this moment was the Jingzhou mansion. Yamen man. But at this moment, Jingzhou mansion has turned into a sea of fire. In the sea of fire, servants fled in all directions, screaming in fear. Some people struggled to escape in the sea of fire, and they have turned into burning people. There is another. A police officer carried a bucket to put out the fire, but the fire was too strong and could not be extinguished in a short time. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 138. In the backyard of Jingzhou Mansion, there is still a killer who has not left and is fighting with the police. Those who dare to assassinate the governor of Jingzhou Mansion are naturally not the kind of parallel traders on the street. The team is led by an innate master. The agents and government officials of Jingzhou Mansion were no match for them. They were beaten back and forth with many casualties. Protect your lord. A group of police officers surrounded an old official in the middle, beating and escaping. The old man had a look of panic on his face. He was trembling when he walked, staggered, and almost fell. This man was obviously the governor of Jingzhou Prefecture. Du Ruhe. Evil thieves, you evil thieves dare to break into Jingzhou Mansion Yamen. You are really lawless and lawless. Du Ruhe, the governor of Jingzhou Mansion, was a civil servant. When he saw the killers wreaking havoc, he could only curse. But his ability to curse was very weak. In short, he was just a scumbag. He could only curse people with the word evil thief, which seemed to be a profound knowledge. There are only two words left in the language that can describe those group of killers. The so-called scholar encountering soldiers cannot be explained clearly. Du Ruhe could only curse while getting anxious, and there was absolutely nothing he could do against those group of killers. He was arresting when the fast Yamen officer was defeated by the killer. Xiao Wuji took action. With a flash of lightning, Xiao Wuji jumped from the roof, passing through many killers in an instant and passing through them. Du Ruhe and the remaining fast Yamen officer only saw that a flash of lightning turned a corner, and all the movements of the killers stopped. Xiao Wuji appeared and put his sword back into its sheath. There was a clang of the sword, and all the killers behind him fell to the ground, leaving no one behind. Jin Yue. He is the master of Jin Yue. Finally there is help. Many of the fast-moving government officials looked happy. Du Ruhe recognized Xiao Wuji's Fiyu uniform rank and knew that he was Deputy Qinhu. Then he straightened his official uniform, tremblingly stepped forward, cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, Master Qinhu, for your help. Thank you very much for your help." Many police officers also bent down and saluted. Xiao Wuji returned the salute and said, "The words of the 383 people in Du dynasty are serious. As a royal guard, it is the duty of the lower officials to rescue you. You don't need to say thank you. Mr. Du is also requested to immediately summon all the police officers in Jingzhou Prefecture to maintain public security in Jinling and rescue the people in the city. I have other tasks, so I will take my leave." After saying that, Xiao Wuji wanted to turn around and leave. 1,000 households and so on. Du Ruhe stopped Xiao Wuji and asked, "Does Qinhu know what happened tonight? Why are there so many gangsters causing trouble in Jinling, and why are they even so bold as to break into the Jingzhou Mansion Yamen?" Not everyone is as well informed as Jin Yue. At this moment, except for Jin Yue, Liamen, Dongchang, and the Emperor, I am afraid that other officials and city guards are still confused. They do not know the mastermind behind this turmoil. It's the demon sect. Xiao Wuji said in a deep voice, "This matter is a long story. I can't tell Master Du in detail. All you need to know is that this turmoil is the conspiracy of the traitors of the demon section." After saying that, Xiao Wuji jumped up and disappeared into a flash of lightning. Du Ruhei looked at the disappearing flash of lightning, with Xiao Wuji's words still echoing in his ears. Behind this turmoil is the conspiracy of the demon sect. These damn demon sect traitors are simply unforgivable. Du Ruhei, who came back to his senses, was furious and his face flushed with anger. Captain Lu, please pass on my order. Except for the policeman who put out the fire, everyone should follow me to save people. Sir, it's very chaotic outside now. You should stay in the government office. If something happens to the adults, my subordinates will not be able to explain it. Lu Captu came behind Du Ruhei, cupped his hands and said, "What is this nonsense?" Du Ruhei immediately became angry when he heard this. "I am the governor of Jingzhou Mansion, and it is my duty to protect the people of this place. Now that the people are being persecuted by the evil sex traitors, how can I just sit back and watch? Do you want me to ignore the common people and act like a coward? But my lord, it's very dangerous out there." Lu Captu wanted to persuade him again, but was interrupted by Du Ruhei. "No matter how dangerous it is, I must go. At the critical moment of life and death, it is even more necessary for me to step forward and stabilize people's hearts. As long as we can protect the safety of the people, even if the officer is dead, what's the point?" Du Ruhei put his hands behind his back, held his head high, and spoke every word with a sonorous and powerful voice, which shocked the hearts of many police officers. Under the light of the fire behind him, Du Ruhei's image was extremely majestic. Lu Captu and many police officers, they all fell to their knees and shouted, "I am willing to listen to your orders." Du Ruhei was a well-known upright and good official in the Zhou dynasty. His reputation spread far and wide and he was deeply loved among the people. Yuan Xiong asked Xiao Wuji to be the first to rescue Du Ruhei. In addition to Jingzhou Mansion being the closest to Bijin Fuzi, he also there is this reason. If such an honest and good official dies, it will be a great loss to the Zhou court. Yuan Xiong is loyal to the court, so he will naturally do his best to protect the lives of these good officials. As for those corrupt officials, as well as Li Wenbo, a series of officials. After Yuan Xiong received the call for help, he did not send anyone to rescue them and put them at the back. Commander Xia Yongxuan and Yuan Xiong hated these corrupt officials and usually worried that they would not have a chance to deal with them. Tonight was better. The demon cult took the initiative to hand over the knife. At this moment, using the hands of the demon cult to get rid of these pests can be regarded as using waste. Xiao Wuji walked through the streets and alleys of Jinling City, and all the demon cult killers who attacked the people took advantage of the opportunity. The ruffians who plundered property and people who behaved suspiciously were all killed ruthlessly by Xiao Wuji. A flash of lightning flashed by, and 4 or 5 ruffians were beheaded by Xiao Wuji. Several Jinyi guards were catching these ruffians. They all froze in place. Xiao Wuji showed his true body on the roof, looked at many Jinyi Wei and shouted sternly, "All Jinyi Wei obey the order, anyone who kills or injures the common people tonight, kill. Anyone who takes the opportunity to cause chaos, plunder property, or insult women shall be killed. Anyone who behaves sneakily and cannot prove his or her innocence shall be killed. Use extraordinary measures in emergency situations, no need to show mercy." Under the infusion of powerful true energy, Xiao Wuji's voice spread mightily in the night sky, spreading farther and farther. I don't know how many Jinyi Wei heard Xiao Wuji's order. There were also many 6-door arresters. Kuai and the soldiers of the 4 Elephants Legion also heard Xiao Wuji's words. Originally, they wanted to capture those criminals who took advantage of the opportunity to rob property and those with suspicious whereabouts. After all, some of them were real. The crime will not lead to death. But at this moment, hearing Xiao Wuji's order, everyone's hearts are filled with murderous intentions. Xiao Wuji's words are right. They should be used in emergency situations. Extraordinary method. There is chaos in Jinling tonight, and they can no longer be merciful. Only by killing to stop killing can this turmoil be quelled as quickly as possible. Following Xiaoqianhu's orders, all the bad guys will be killed without leaving a single one alive. 100 households took the lead in obeying Xiao Wuji's order and immediately cut off several gangsters in front of him with a knife. That Lord Jinyue was right, these evil thieves all deserve to die. A six-door silver-clad policeman drew his sword and killed the two men who were bullying women on the spot. He didn't know Xiao Wuji, but he only felt that Xiao Wuji was so powerful and majestic that he couldn't help but admire him. Following Xiao Wuji's order, the soldiers of the Four Elephants Legion also began to kill all the gangsters. Under this killing method, the effect achieved was far greater than before. Zuk Street was now in chaos. Flames were shooting into the sky. Screaming again and again. There were corpses everywhere on the street. All of these corpses were black, with bleeding from their orifices, and even skin ulcers. They were obviously poisoned and died. In addition, there were countless people fleeing in all directions. A man shrouded all over his body, the figure under the black robe floated out from a dark alley like a ghost. Under the black robe, a pair of cold blood-red pupils were exposed. Looking at the people fleeing in all directions and the many corpses on the ground, these pupils were extremely cold and flashing with a fierce light. But suddenly, the bloody fierce light disappeared, replaced by pain and struggle. Kill them, no, I cannot, I can't do this. A low roar like a wild beast came from inside the black robe. The voice was hoarse and subtle, and no one could detect it. Evil thief! Finally found you. Suddenly, a roar rang out in the ears of the man in black robe, and then a gun shadow fell from the sky, piercing the heart of the man in black robe. If this shot hits, the man in black robe will definitely be shot in the chest, and his body and soul will be destroyed. Roar! The man in black robe roared, reacted quickly, turned around and shot out a palm, defeating the gun shadow. With the help of the true energy impact, the man in black robe flew back and distanced himself from the incoming person. A red-blooded spear, it fell from the sky and hit the ground hard, creating a crack. Then a middle-aged man flew over and landed on the spear. It was the 8th on the Earth list, Gongsun Ao of the Spear Sect. Gongsun Ao turned over and drew his spear. Pointed directly at the man in black robe, and shouted coldly, "Who are you? Why are innocent people slaughtered here? Xiao Wuji's small courtyard is here on Zuk Street. Gongsun Ao has been recuperating here since he was sent here. After a period of recuperation, although Gongsun Ao's injury has not completely healed, it has improved by 7 to 8 points, and his strength has been restored 80%. Tonight, as usual, he was doing exercises in his room to heal his wounds. Suddenly he saw fire outside the window and screams. Gongsun Ao rushed out of the room and saw someone slaughtering people wantonly on the street. He could tell at a glance, these people were killing people randomly. This was an indiscriminate massacre without a clear target. Although Gongsun Ao did not admit it, he did have a chivalrous heart and naturally could not sit idly by, so he took action to kill all the killers. But this could not save those people, because in addition to the killers on the surface, there were also people poisoning and killing the people. The poisoned people died in extremely miserable conditions and suffered inhuman torture before they died. Gongsun saw that Ao was furious and his murderous intent was boiling. So he followed the murderous intent and finally found the black-robed man in the alley. "Are you from the demon cult?" Gongsun. Ao pointed his gun at the man in black robes and shouted sternly, "Although the demon sect is an evil sect, it is still the #1 sect in the Great Zhou dynasty. It actually attacked a group of innocent people regardless of their face. Do you still want to be shameless?" However, in the face of Gongsun Ao's questioning and angry shouts, the man in black robe said nothing and chose to remain silent. Gongsun Ao said coldly, "The devil's sect is so cruel, it really makes the heroes of the world feel cold. Let's settle old and new grudges together tonight." Remembering that his friend Bai Junqian was kidnapped by the demon sect, and what the demon sect did tonight, Gongsun Ao's anger completely exploded. He waved the red-blooded spear, making a sound of dragons roaring and tigers roaring, and stabbed out with one spear. A man in black robe wears a head on his neck. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 139. The man in black robe did not dodge, but actually stepped forward and slapped the head of the gun with his palm, blocking Gongsun Ao's killing move. There was a stalemate with one shot and one palm. The true energy and energy were clashing with each other, they were evenly matched, and the two immediately competed with each other in terms of internal strength. Gongsun Ao let out a low roar and poured all the true energy into the red blood spear. The dragon-shaped head of the spear was full of true energy and roared again and again. With a loud bang, the focus of the battle exploded. The true energy dispersed violently, and both Gongsun Ao and the man in black robe retreated. Gongsun Ao did a backflip and landed steadily, stopped, and looked up just in time to see the black robe of the man in black being knocked off, revealing a familiar face. Seeing this face, Gongsun Ao's eyes widened instantly, his face changed drastically, and his eyes were full of disbelief. Brother Bai? Why you? The voice was full of surprise and shock, showing the unrest in Gongsun Ao's heart at this moment. The man in black robe was none other than Gongsun Ao's best friend, Bai Junchen. White, brother. Bai Junchen murmured to himself and repeated it. His eyes seemed to clear up for a moment, and there was a flash of struggle. He looked at Gongsun Ao and said, Gongsun Ao, brother. It's me, I'm Gongsun Ao. Seeing Bai Junchen recognize him, Gongsun Ao was immediately overjoyed. However, this joy did not last long, because the next second, Bai Junchen's eyes suddenly turned red as blood. Kill, kill, kill. A gloomy and cold voice surged up from Bai Junchen's throat, followed by endless killing intent. Bai Junchen suddenly disappeared from the spot, teleported to Gongsun Ao, and slapped his chest with a palm. Gongsun Ao hung Qian blocked, but was knocked back by Bai Junchen's palm. Before he could stabilize his body, he saw Bai Junchen coming to kill again. With each move, the true energy was strong and powerful, and the murderous intention was revealed, targeting Gongsun Ao's vitals with each move. It can be seen that Bai Junchen has no idea of mercy at all. Brother Bai. Gongsun Ao didn't want to hurt his friend, so he only defended but did not attack. He was beaten back repeatedly. With the help of a confrontation, Gongsun Ao and Bai Junchen distanced themselves. Kill! Kill you! Bai Junchen looked up to the sky and roared, his voice hoarse and low, like the roar of an evil ghost. I saw Bai Junchen put his palms together, and a black true energy suddenly burst out of his body, turning into a monstrous palm and slapped Bai Junchen. What Bai Junchen learned is it is a unique skill of the righteous way. It should be grand and majestic when it is used. However, when it is used now, it is filled with evil energy, like a ghostly realm. Damn the demon sect, I, Gongsun Ao, am at odds with you. Gongsun Ao roared ferociously, and the sound spread throughout the surrounding streets and alleys. At this moment, he couldn't understand that Bai Junchen was already controlled by the demon sect. Otherwise, Bai Junchen would not attack innocent civilians, let alone he knows how to fight with him. Seeing his friend being manipulated out of control, Gongsun Ao's heart is like a knife. He is arrogant by nature and has a bad temper, so he offends many people, and there are very few friends who make good friends with him. The only life and death friend is Bai Junchen. But now Bai Junchen has been harmed by the demon cult, making him look like a human and a ghost like a ghost. How can Gongsun Ao be angry? Roar! The spear breaks through the air and the true essence is transformed. It was the bloody dragon, and it faced the black giant palm head-on. The needle pointed against the wheat on, and only a loud bang was heard. Bai Junshin's black giant palm was defeated by the bloody dragon head-on. The true essence exploded, and the backlash came. Bai Junshin vomited blood, the body flew out upside down. Gongsun Ao also groaned and blood bleeded from the corner of his mouth. He was already seriously injured, but at this moment, the rising anger affected his mind. Coupled with the forced exercise to compete with Bai Junshin, it naturally affected the old injuries. However, these injuries it's nothing serious. He was already stronger than Bai Junshin, and he could still defeat Bai Junshin even when he was injured. Cough, cough, cough. Bai Junshin vomited blood, his scarlet eyes became clear, and he regained his consciousness at this moment. Gongsun, brother. Brother Bai, do you remember me? Gongsun Ao looked happy and hurriedly stepped forward. What happened? Why are you like this? Bai Junshin showed a wry smile and said intermittently, that day, I lured away the ghost-faced man and had a fierce battle with him. Later I discovered that the ghost-faced man was actually a master of the demon cult. I was no match for him. I was knocked unconscious and taken away by him. When I woke up, I was already in a dark underground palace. There are many martial artists who were kidnapped like me. People from the demon cult use poison to control our minds and turn us into murderous puppets. You know what happened next? Since it is a poison, it can definitely be cured. I will take you to find a miracle doctor now. The world is so big and the rivers and lakes are so far away, there must be a way to save you. Gongsun Ao quickly picked up Bai Junshin and wanted to take him away, but Bai Junshin suddenly stopped him. It's useless. The poison has penetrated into my brain. There is no cure in the world. My current sobriety is only temporary and I will have another attack soon. Bai Junshin's words suddenly stopped, because his eyes once again turned as scarlet as blood, and his expression was ferocious, and he looked at Gongsun Ao with murderous intent. Boom! Bai Junshin suddenly struck out with a palm and took Gongsun Ao's head directly. Fortunately, Bai Junshin was seriously injured at this moment and lacked fighting strength. His palm strength and speed were greatly reduced, so he was dodged by Gongsun Aoji. Gongsun Ao took off Bai Junshin's right arm with his backhand. At the same time, he came up behind Bai Junshin and connected his sword fingers to seal off the major points around his body. Under the blockade of the 8 extraordinary meridians, Bai Junshin temporarily regained his consciousness. With a look of pain on his face, he looked at Gongsun Ao and said, Brother Gongsun, kill me. Acupuncture, it can only seal the poison, for a moment, soon, my acupoints, will be, goo insect breaks through. The poison used by the demon cult has no cure. It will turn people into beasts and murderous puppets. Only when the person dies, the poison will die. As he spoke, Bai Junshin's 7 orifices began to bleed. Under the skin on his face, blood vessels bulged out, and the blood vessels were vaguely visible, as if something was crawling in the blood vessels. And this process caused Bai Junshin indescribable pain. The painful injury caused him to scream involuntarily. Kill me, brother Gongsun, kill me quickly. Bai Junshin yelled. I can't stand it anymore, kill me now. Bang. 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 There was a banging sound in Bai Junshin's body, and the flesh and blood on his body exploded, and blood flew out. His big hole blocked by Gongsun Ao has been all rushed away. However, the way the goo worm breaks through the acupuncture points is very rough and cruel. It forcibly breaks through the acupuncture points at the cost of destroying the meridians. After this, as long as all the true energy in Bai Junshin's body is exhausted, he will be completely reduced to a useless person. Even dead people. Kill me quickly, do you want me to beg you? Bai Junshin roared, his eyes turning blood red again. He suddenly stood up and regained his ability to move. His right arm that was removed clicked and reattached automatically. This shows that the demon sex how terrifying is the poison. Roar. Bai Junchen roared and killed Gong Sun Ao, not afraid of death. Gong Sun Ao held the red blood spear to dodge, the hand holding the gun was shaking. He couldn't do it. Gong Sun Ao claimed to kill. He is decisive in fighting, fierce with iron blood, and never relents in killing. But after all, he can't take action against Bai Junchen, his best friend. Not to mention that Bai Junchen fell to this point just to save him. If he kills Bai Junchen, he will never do it again in the future. What kind of shame does he have to stand between heaven and earth? Please give me flowers. If he could exchange one life for another, Gong Sun Ao would definitely give his life without hesitation. Boom. 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 Bai Junchen's killing moves became more and more powerful, just like before. It was as if all the serious injuries he suffered did not exist. But this was only temporary, like the reflection of a dying person. The acupuncture points in his body were reopened by the poison. At this moment, all the true energy in his body exploded, and his natural power was infinite. But once the true energy is exhausted, Bai Junchen will undoubtedly die. But before that, Gong Sun Ao, who only defends but does not attack, may be killed by Bai Junchen first. Wow! At this moment, the sound of thunder and thunder rang out in the sky. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, fell from the sky and came behind Bai Junchen in an instant. Bang! Xiao Wuji pointed his finger at the back of Bai Junchen's heart, and the powerful finger force penetrated into the body, directly destroying the internal organs and instantly destroying Bai Junchen's meridians and dantian. Junchen spurted out a mouthful of blood, and his knees were weak and he fell to the ground. The blood-red eyes slowly faded and became clear again. Although he had lost all his skills, his ferocious expression was extremely soothing, as if he had been relieved. Brother Bai. Seeing Bai Junchen being sneak attacked by Xiao Wuji, Gong Sun Ao widened his eyes, roared, and rushed forward, subconsciously stabbing Xiao Wuji with the red blood spear in his hand. Gong Sun Ao struck with anger. Although it was powerful, it did not have the essence of marksmanship. It's like a 3-year-old playing with a stick, but it doesn't work. Xiao Wuji just raised his hand and pinched the tip of the gun with 2 fingers. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make any further progress. Calm down. Xiao Wuji flicked his sword and forced Gong Sun Ao back. Gong Sun Ao took more than 10 steps back before stopping. Why did you kill him? Gong Sun Ao yelled at Xiao Wuji like crazy, as if he was crazy. Xiao Wuji said expressionlessly, he is poisoned by the devil's religion, and life is worse than death. Instead of letting him live and suffer, killing innocent people indiscriminately, why not send him on his way to help him escape? Since you can't do it. To be honest, Xiao Wuji has been coming to Zuk Street for a while. He watched the fight between Gong Sun Ao and Bai Junchen from beginning to end. Since Gong Sun Ao couldn't bear to take action, he and Bai Junchen had no friendship anyway. There is no psychological burden at all when killing. How? Do you still want to save him? Xiao Wuji looked at Gong Sun Ao and said in a cold tone, so what if you save him? He poisoned hundreds of civilians on Zuk Street and died tragically. He should be punished for his crime. Even if you save him, you can't escape the Jin Yiwei's accountability. He will die after all. That was not his intention, he was forced, he was controlled by the demon cult. Gong Sun Ao roared. So what? Xiao Wuji looked at Gong Sun Ao and said calmly, even if he was involuntarily and didn't know what he did, can he get away with it? Can he say with peace of mind that the tragic deaths of hundreds of people had nothing to do with him? Yes, he is a victim, forced to do so. But it is also true that he killed people. If he can get away with it, how will the hundreds of civilians who died rest in peace? Who can seek justice for their deaths? Xiao Wuji's words were so powerful that Gongsun Ao was speechless. I. Gongsun Ao stammered and couldn't say a word. I have to admit that Xiao Wuji is right, he can't refute it. Gongsun, brother, no, moreover. Bai Junchen, who was paralyzed on the ground, struggled to open his eyes and said weakly, Master Xiao said it, yes, this is, mine, sin, should, by me, there be. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 140. Gongsun Ao grabbed Bai Junchen's hand and said anxiously, stop talking, I know everything, I know everything. It's not your fault. It's all my fault. I'm the one who deserves to die. If it weren't for me, you wouldn't be hurt like this. If I hadn't insisted on coming to Jinling City to challenge Xiao Wuji, maybe none of this would have happened. Gongsun Ao's eyes were filled with tears, and there was only endless regret in his heart. A man who bleeds would not shed tears, let alone a tough guy like Gongsun Ao. After he was 3 years old, Gongsun Ao only shed tears twice. Once when his parents were killed by his enemies. Gongsun Ao cried in sorrow. Once, Gongsun Ao killed his enemy to avenge his parents. He cried with joy after the great revenge was avenged. Now it is the third time, and this time it is regret. Gongsun Ao regrets very much, regretting that he was because of a momentary due to the conflict of emotions, they did not listen to Bai Junchen's advice and insisted on coming to Jinling City. If they had not come to Jinling, they would still be living well now. Traveling together, traveling across the rivers and lakes, they don't know how carefree they are. But it's because of him in a moment of anger, he killed his friend. It's okay, I do not blame you. Bai Junchen said with a smile, if you have a close friend in life, you will die without regrets. I, Bai Junchen, have no regrets in having a brother like you in this life. Cough cough cough. Bai Junchen suddenly coughed violently, 623, his eyes were rounded, he stared at Gongsun Ao, grabbed his collar, and said word by word with his last breath, we must, careful, demonic cult, they, them, he. Before he finished speaking, Bai Junchen's breath suddenly stopped. His head dropped weakly and he completely died. His eyes were still open, and black blood flowed from his 7 orifices. His death was extremely miserable, as if he was dying with his eyes open. Brother Bai! Gongsun Ao screamed, his voice infinitely sad. Xiao Wuji stood aside with his arms folded, expressionless and silent. To be honest, he envied such brotherhood. As Bai Junchen said before his death, life is full of joy. A close friend will die without regrets. To have a brother who is kind to you from the bottom of his heart, and is even willing to give up his life for you, many people will never meet such a brother in their lifetime. Xiao Wuji also wants to have a brother like this. But this possibility is too small, very slim. Because brothers of life and death can only make friends by exchanging sincerity for sincerity. And Xiao Wuji has too many secrets. Because of this, Xiao Wuji is destined to be unable to open his heart to another person and give his sincerity. So he was destined to never find a life and death brother. After a long time, Gongsun Ao put down Bai Junchen's body, closed his eyes, and said word by word, don't worry, brother Bai, I will definitely avenge you. I, Gongsun Ao, swear here that I will be incompatible with the demonic cult in this life. I will not give up until I kill all the demons in the demonic cult. This hatred will last until death. Gongsun Ao raised his head, his eyes were cold and gloomy, and his expression was twisted. No matter how you looked at that face, it seemed a bit ferocious and terrifying. Xiao Wuji said from the side, if you want to destroy the demon sect, with your own strength, it is like hitting an egg. Stones are just seeking death. I advise you to calm down for the time being, don't be impulsive, and take your time step by step. Gongsun Ao said calmly. I know that with my current strength, I cannot be the opponent of the demon section. But I will wait until the time comes. A gentleman's revenge will last 10 years. I am not a gentleman, but I will take revenge for 20 years. If it doesn't work in 20 years, then 30 years, if it doesn't work in 30 years, then 50 years. One day, I will kill all the demon sects. Even if it doesn't work, I will take a bite of the devil's flesh and let them know how painful it is. If I can die on the road of revenge, my life, Gongsun Ao, will not be in vain. After saying that, Gongsun Ao carried Bai Junchan's body on his back, picked up the red blood spear, and walked into the darkness. After walking a few steps, Gongsun Ao stopped. Although he did not look back, his voice came from far away, I will come back, and I will repay the 3 lives I owe you. After saying that, Gongsun Ao continued to move forward until he disappeared into the darkness. Xiao Wuji looked at Gongsun Ao's disappearing back and sighed softly. He knew that Gongsun Ao had changed. The former Gongsun was naturally proud and unruly. Ao is dead. From now on, the only one alive is Gongsun Ao, who is bent on revenge. For revenge, Gongsun Ao is willing to pay any price, including his dignity, pride, and even his life. Things are impermanent. Xiao Wuji shook his head and sighed, then jumped up and turned into a bolt of lightning and shot into the distance. Gongsun Ao's matter was over, but his mission had just begun. Wow, there was a flash of lightning, and Xiao Wuji appeared on the top of a tall building. From a high position, Xiao Wuji could clearly see half of Jinling City. Although the Jinyi guards, 6 gates, and 4 elephant legions had been dispatched in large numbers to suppress the demon sect killers, the riot could not be completely quelled for a while. After all, the demon sect killers were spread out. It's too messy, and some of them are deeply hidden. It's hard to find their traces if you don't take the initiative to expose them. It's time to start. Xiao Wuji turned his head and looked at the palace in the distance. He knew that the devil sect was making such a big fuss, and the ultimate target must be the emperor. The reason why so many killers were sent to disrupt the entire Jinling city was to mobilize Jin Yiwei and Lu Fan. The troops of the sect and the 4 Elephants Legion were sent to quell the riots and ensure that there were no redundant troops to support the palace. The killers deployed by the demon sect in the palace would definitely be several times more than those in Jinling city. The dog emperor may not be able to sleep well tonight. Xiao Wuji couldn't help but laugh when he thought of this, and he was a little gloating. How should I put it? Although Xiao Wuji hates the demon cult, he doesn't have much favorable impression of this dog emperor. Since when you become an emperor, you naturally have to work for the welfare of the people of the world. But what Emperor Jingtai did is really not a wise king. Such a dog emperor will die early and be clean. If he dies and replaces it, it may be better for the people of the world. Bang! Suddenly, a firework soared into the sky and exploded in the sky, revealing a mark of the Jinyiwei. It was the Jinyiwei summoning order, proving that the Jinyiwei had encountered a strong enemy and was asking for support. Xiao Wuji saw the distress signal and immediately used all his strength. The super lightning god walked and turned into a beam of lightning and shot towards the place where the signal was. Jinling City, the inner palace, Deluo Hall. Jingtai Emperor Xia Yuankai was furious, and his roar echoed in the Deluo Hall, with lingering sounds. How do you do things? Ah! You actually allowed so many demon sect rebels to openly enter Jinling City, burning, killing and looting under my nose. Are all of you blind? Are you deaf? On weekdays, everyone claims to have an eye for all directions and an ear for all directions. They all boast that their intelligence capabilities are unparalleled. You also said that no one in the world can escape your surveillance. You are my eyes and ears. Is this your answer to me? If my eyes are blind and my ears are deaf, then is this world still my world? Waste, they are all a bunch of waste. Boom. A terrifying momentum burst out from Emperor Jingtai and swept through the entire Deluo Palace. Xia Yongxuan, the commander of the Jinyai Wei, Cao Wan Chun, the Duke of Dongchang Cheng, and several officials all knelt on the ground. Several civil servants, in particular, were so frightened by the furious Emperor Jingtai that they trembled and broke into cold sweats. Your Majesty, please calm down. Your Majesty is incompetent. Please calm down, Your Majesty. Seriously. Xia Yongxuan, Cao Wan Chun, and others all knelt down to apologize and respectfully comforted. Calm down? How can I calm down? Emperor Jingtai suddenly stood up and stepped forward. These small pieces of paper are the current situation of Jinling City reported by the Dark Guardian below. Each piece of paper represents an incident. Among them, officials were killed, markets were poisoned, and aristocratic families were wiped out, prisons were invaded, prisoners escaped, etc. The severity of the incidents varied. If one or two incidents occurred alone, it would not be a big deal at all. But tonight, hundreds of incidents occurred simultaneously, and riots spread. The entire city of Jinling was destroyed. According to current statistics, more than 3,000 people have died, and there are countless injured. Jinling, known as the #1 city in the world, was openly invaded by the demon sect's rebels, causing such a stir of big commotion. When the news spreads, where will the emperor's face be put? How will he explain to the people of Jinling City? How will he explain to the people of Zhou Dynasty? The majesty of the emperor was completely lost in one day, and even one of them was not good. It will cause resentment among the people in various places and rebels will rise everywhere. Enemy countries such as Bian and Nanliang may also think that the power of the great Zhou Dynasty is weak, so they will take the opportunity to send troops to the great Zhou Dynasty. If that time comes, under the combination of internal strife and foreign enemies, the great Zhou Dynasty may even have the danger of overthrow. What the demon cult did tonight has already shaken the foundation of the country. These damn demon sect rebels have plotted rebellion again and again. They really deserve death. Emperor Jingtai slapped it with one palm, leaving a 5-finger palm print several inches deep on the alchemy furnace next to it. The terrifying momentum burst out, setting off violent winds and waves, like tigers roaring and dragons roaring. Your Majesty, please calm down. We have sent out all the Jinyi guards from the North and South Zhenfu Division to hunt down the demon sect rebels. I think it won't be long before all the demon sect rebels can be annihilated. Xia Yongxuan, commander of Jinyi Wei 5.3, bowed his hands and saluted. Your Majesty, I have sent experts from Dongchang to hunt down the demon sect rebels throughout the city. I can guarantee that no demon sect rebel will be able to leave Jinling City alive. Cao Wan Chun, the Duke of Dongchang Cheng, also showed his loyalty in time. After hearing what the two said, Emperor Jingtai's face improved a little. He took a deep breath, temporarily suppressed the anger in his heart, looked at Xia Yongxuan and asked officials in the city how many casualties. Has the casualty list been compiled? Xia Yongxuan quickly handed over a list and said respectfully, the demon cult took action without any warning and caught us off guard. Fortunately, we reacted in time and sent many experts to rescue. Except for a few officials who were killed at the beginning, most of the subsequent officials were saved. After being rescued, several officials even risked their lives and rushed to the scene in person, leading the police officers to arrest the demon sect rebels and rescue the people. Among them, Du Ruhe, the governor of Jingzhou Mansion, took the lead and impressed all ministers. Xia Yongxuan took the casualty list and glanced at it. A gleam flashed in his eyes, but he did not reveal it. There were many names on the list, some of which were crossed out with a red pen, proving that the person was dead. This casualty list is very interesting. More than half of the officials who died above were members of the chief assistant Li Wenbo's line.